Chapter 479 The Proud Crown Prince. 22. Chapter 479 The Proud Crown Prince. 22. Jun Linyuan wasn't known to be easily persuaded, not even by his own father, the emperor. Someone had just changed his mind? Who could that be? Lu Yu smiled but didn't reply. Mu Yaoyao went up to them in a hurry. Sister Lu Yu, I'm so sorry. I apologize for being so rude. Can you tell us who that person is? We'll go ask for his help. Maybe he'll put in a good word for us too, right? Lu Yu smirked inwardly. It was a her. And with what you did? Forget it. You people would be scared out of your wits if I told you that the person was Miss Feng Wu. Deep down, Lu Yu was a little devil. She was enjoying seeing Mu Yaoyao and the others dig their own graves. Hence, she replied indifferently, I'm sorry. I don't know who that person is. Just then, hasty footsteps came from outside. Lady Mu arrived with a bunch of maids and grannies. However, they were stopped at the door and Lady Mu was only allowed to take one maid and one granny with her. Lord Mu had been furious when he got the news. The girl offended His Royal Highness? Did she have a death wish? Lord Mu was too ashamed to come here himself. Lady Mu could still hear Lord Mu's bellow in her ears. Leave her there. Let her rot in hell. What was she thinking, offending Jun Linyuan? How stupid can she be? Lady Mu had a hard time calming Lord Mu down before leaving for World Tower with all those servants and a lot of gifts. A granny found a maid of World Tower before they got in and bribed her. They were then told what happened today. However, they were all the more befuddled after they heard the whole thing. What? What did the princess do? What was the crown prince unhappy about? For offending Feng Wu and Chaoga? Or for bringing Princess Jun Wuxia into this? Lady Mu was confused. They also heard from the maid that Master Lu Yuan had been replaced by Lu Yu, the new head. Lady Mu's stomach lurched. That was big. Lu Yu came out to greet Lady Mu. With Lady Mu, Lu Yu was rather detached in her manner, and that warm smile she gave Jin Yuntao was nowhere to be found. Lady Mu, please take the princess back. She's no longer a child and I don't think she should act or speak so childishly anymore. You never know who you would offend unknowingly. What more could Lady Mu say? She could only smile bitterly and promise that she would discipline the princess well. Princess Mu was vexed. Just tell me who I offended? What childish thing did I say? Mu Yaoyao glared at Lu Yu. She couldn't understand this. Smack. However, Lady Mu slapped her hard in the face right away. Mum! Mu Yaoyao was astonished. She had never expected that her mother would hit her. Growing up, her mother had always doted on her, and had never laid a finger on her. Mu Yaoyao felt so wronged. The look in Lady Mu's eyes had never been this stern. Shut your mouth. She had offended His Royal Highness and that was a fact. Continuing to ask such questions would only displease the Crown Prince further. Lord Mu and herself wouldn't be able to do anything if the Crown Prince decided to cut Mu Yaoyao's head off. Lady Mu darted a look at the granny whom she had brought with her. The granny quickly tied Mu Yaoyao up with a rope. Chapter 480 The Proud Crown Prince. 23. Chapter 480 The Proud Crown Prince. 23. What are you doing? What do you think you're doing? Let go of me. Now. Mu Yaoyao cried out in surprise and struggled violently. However, Granny Xuan was too powerful for Mu Yaoyao to break free from. She could handle the princess like a hawk picking up a chicken. Once she seized Mu Yaoyao, the girl's fate was sealed. Granny Xiong's fingers moved swiftly and the rope made a whooshing sound in her hands. She was almost too fast for the eye to follow. When the others were finally able to see what she was doing, Mu Yaoyao had been tied up like a mummy. You! Mu Yaoyao tried to speak, but the fierce Granny Xiong stuffed a big walnut into her mouth. That successfully shut her up right away. And Mu Yao really burst into tears now. Lady Mu gave Lu Yu a nod, then left with Mu Yao. Everyone was astonished. Lady Mu was so merciless. That was rather humiliating for Princess Mu, wasn't it? However, Lu Yu watched the lady leave with an appreciative look in her eyes. Lady Mu had done the right thing. Mu Yaoyao offended His Royal Highness, and the only thing the Mu family could do now was to accept any punishment the Crown Prince gave them and act as humbly as they could. But was Lord Mu going to be all right after what Lady Mu did? As a matter of fact, shortly afterward, the Imperial censors accused him of some random misconduct and impeached him, and he was downgraded to an earl. For that, Lord Mu wanted to kill Mu Yao. Of course, we'll talk about that later. Yi Yifei's father came to pick her up. Sir Yi was a third-ranked official and the assistant minister of the Ministry of Works. When he learned that Yi Yifei had offended His Royal Highness, he almost passed out on the spot and was only able to steady himself with much difficulty. He wished Yi Yifei wasn't his daughter, but that wasn't an option. Hence he had to come here and get her. As soon as he reached the entrance of World Tower, he met Lady Mu with the mummy-like Princess Mu, and his face drained of all color at the sight. Even the Mu family had to succumb to the Crown Prince's fury and punish their own daughter. What other choice did the Yi family have? Hence, as soon as Sir Yi saw Yi Yifei, slap, 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 he slapped her repeatedly right away. He was genuinely infuriated. Yi Yifei was dumbfounded. Sir Yi was also sounding out the attitude of the new head of World Tower. Things wouldn't be so bad if she stopped him. However, Lu Yu simply stood there with her hands behind her back with an indifferent look on her face, as if she was watching a show. Sir Ye's heart sank. He realized that Lu Yu wouldn't frown even if he beat Yi Yifei to death here. Let's go. Sir Yi took Yi Yifei back in fury. Yi Yifei's miserable days had only just begun. Jun Wuxia watched what happened to Yi Yifei and Mu Yaoyao with great trepidation. As a matter of fact, she still hadn't figured out. What had she done to offend her brother? I want to see my brother. Jun Wuxia couldn't sit still anymore. She stared at Lu Yu and made her demand. Lu Yu said indifferently, Your Royal Highness, no one would dare disturb your brother at this moment. Why? Jun Wuxia pressed. Lu Yu only shrugged. She knew exactly why, but she didn't want to tell the princess. Jun Wuxia was infuriated by Lu Yu's indifference. But her anger was futile. Jun Linyuan ignored her and even his employee wouldn't follow her orders. The more Jun Wuxia thought about it, the angrier she became. She kicked the table hard. Chapter 481 The Proud Crown Prince 24. Chapter 481 The Proud Crown Prince 24. Lu Yu didn't stop her, but only darted a glance at a waitress. The waitress then noted something down on a piece of paper. What are you doing? Jun Wuxia bellowed. What do you think you're doing? Lu Yu said innocently, Since your Royal Highness won't accept His Royal Highness's verdict and just ruined public property, we'll have to see what punishment your brother has in mind for this. Jun Wuxia yelled, How dare you? How dare you? You piece of shit. Do you have a death wish? Lu Yu shrugged. Well, I'm His Royal Highness's piece of shit and that's my honor. However, I'm afraid I don't take orders from a royal princess. Jun Wuxia was speechless. This was ridiculous. In the royal palace, the news was delivered. Empress Dugu smacked the table furiously. That's just preposterous. How can anyone be so overbearing and arrogant? And he calls himself the crown prince of the empire. The Empress was grinding her teeth when Emperor Wu sauntered in with his hands behind his back. Your Majesty. Empress Dugu began to sob as soon as she saw Emperor Wu. Tears welled up in her eyes and she looked pleasingly pitiful. Emperor Wu was surprised. What happened? Before he could ask, Empress Dugu's accusations began to fly. Your Majesty, this is ridiculous. Wuxia has somehow offended the crown prince, and he won't let her come back unless a parent goes there to pick her up. Your Majesty, how can he do that? I know he doesn't like me, but does he have to do all that behind my back to my daughter? Poor Wuxia. Empress Dugu wailed, looking as pretty as a blossoming pear tree in the rain. The emperor adored his wife and he tried to indulge her as much as he could. However, when Jun Linyuan was involved, I still have a lot of memorials to go through, and I think I'll have to stay up late tonight. Gosh, I'm exhausted. Emperor Wu stretched, then said to the Empress, My lady, do as you see fit with Wuxia. After that, Emperor Wu left without another word. He left just like that. Empress Dugu almost had a heart attack. She knew it. Every time she had a conflict with Jun Linyuan, Emperor Wu would stay out of it. He had to be the only emperor in history that was intimidated by his own son. Do as she saw fit? She wanted to kill Jun Linyuan. Was that possible? Granny Chung volunteered. How about I go there and bring the princess back? Empress Dugu smirked. That won't be necessary. I'd like to see if that Jun Linyuan is bold enough to imprison my daughter. I don't believe it. Granny Chung darted a look at the Empress, then stepped back. If the Crown Prince was bold enough? The Empress still hadn't learned after so many years. World Tower. Beyond World, the top floor. Lu Yu went up to the door and tapped tentatively. Jun Linyuan was talking to Feng Wu and he frowned at the interruption, but he still said, "Come in." The first thing Lu Yu noticed when she entered was the fact that Feng Wu was reclining on a chaise longue, while Jun Linyuan was making some tea. Lu Yu's eyes sparkled. His Royal Highness was indeed the one doing the labor. Mr. Feng was right. Your Royal Highness, Lu Yu said with great respect. We've sent young Lord Feng back to Northern Feng Mansion. Young Master Jin Yuntao and his friends have left as well. Lu Yu was going over the details when Jun Linyuan cut her off with a wave of his hand. Give me the short version. Chapter 482 The Proud Crown Prince. 25. Chapter 482. The Proud Crown Prince. 25. What? Lu Yu stole a glance at Feng Wu. If she was guessing correctly, Miss Feng Wu would love to hear all the details. Had she assumed wrong? No, Lu Yu was right. Feng Wu's eyes lit up. She tugged at Jun Linyuan's sleeve and looked up at him with pleading eyes. Your Royal Highness, I'm bored. Please let her tell the whole story. Lu Yu was eager to hear Jun Linyuan's reply. Would the stubborn, steadfast Crown Prince bend to this sweet girl's will? Jun Linyuan threw a dirty look at Feng Wu and said grumpily, Why are you so nosy? Please? Pretty please. Feng Wu tugged at his sleeve and pleaded in a soft voice. Jun Linyuan couldn't take it anymore and he glared at Feng Wu. Stand still. Stop squirming. All right. Feng Wu did as told. She stood at attention but didn't let go of his sleeve. Jun Linyuan didn't say anything. He only glared at Lu Yu in resignation and prompted her. Go on. Lu Yu finally knew how Feng must feel. Someone please take away her eyes now. Growing up in the Imperial Guards, Lu Yu knew how relentless and unforgiving Jun Linyuan was. The Crown Prince never let any emotion show and he was colder than a glacier. They had speculated that maybe even his blood was ice cold. However, she couldn't believe her eyes now. Who was this guy and what had he done to His Royal Highness? Huh? What? Lu Yu's mind had wandered off and she spoke before she knew it. And her heart almost stopped when she realized what she had done. She had let her mind wander when His Royal Highness was talking to her. Oh God. She was so getting killed. Lu Yu dropped to her knees and was too nervous to breathe. Your Royal Highness, I was. Lu Yu remembered one of the girls who had come to World Tower around the same time as she had. The girl's mind wandered off when His Royal Highness was talking because she had gotten lost in his handsome face. Then she had never seen that girl again. Lu Yu's heart almost stopped. How dare you? As expected, Jun Linyuan flared up. Please forgive me, Your Royal Highness. Lu Yu prostrated herself on the floor and trembled. Feng Wu, who was nibbling on a peach, was bewildered. Lu Yu's attention had only wandered off for like a second. What was the big deal? She had slapped Jun Linyuan herself and nothing had happened to her. Seeing that Jun Linyuan was going to lose his temper, Feng Wu finished the peach in a few bites, then went up to Jun Linyuan and tugged at his sleeve. Jun Linyuan, what are you doing? Stop yelling. You're frightening Lu Yu. Lu Yu felt like killing herself. Miss Feng Wu, you should really stay out of this. His Royal Highness doesn't listen to others when he's pissed, and sometimes he can't even control himself. If you somehow get hurt, I'll be the one blamed for it in the end. Lu Yu really felt like crying, for she was sure that no one would be able to calm Jun Linyuan down. However, Jun Linyuan only stared at Feng Wu, and the color of his face changed. Lu Yu looked up and she nearly passed out. She saw that Feng Wu's hands were sticky wet from eating the peach, and she had now stained Jun Linyuan's sleeve with the juice. And Jun Linyuan was a neat freak. Oh God, Miss Feng Wu was so dead. His Royal Highness would throttle her. Lu Yu closed her eyes in despair. But Jun Linyuan glared at Feng Wu with a livid face, but that was all he did. Go wash your hands. Feng Wu said fine. But she didn't go very far to do that. Chapter 483 The Proud Crown Prince. 26. Chapter 483. The Proud Crown Prince. 26. She found the nearest water source and washed all the sticky juice off her hands. They were soon back to their smooth, fair state. Luyu took a look, and once more, she felt like passing out. OMG. Miss Feng Wu, that water was eternal sacred spring. It had cost them a small fortune to transport it all the way here from the south. Several spiritual beasts had died on the way. Moreover, they only had a small jar of it in total, and Miss Feng Wu had just washed her hands with several spoonfuls of it. His Royal Highness would be so furious. Luyu didn't dare look at Jun Linyuan's face. Done. Feng Wu ran back to Jun Linyuan happily and showed him her hands. Look how clean they are. Haha, you've got some nice water here. It feels spiritual and has a pleasant scent. Luyu vented her sarcasm inwardly. Course it smelled nice. That was eternal sacred spring. One drop of it was worth 10,000 gold taels. And Miss Feng Wu had just washed her hands with it? What was more, His Royal Highness hadn't even tried to stop her. Jun Linyuan grunted. Right, Liu was talking about what happened down there. Now please go on. Feng Wu went up to Luyu and tried to help her to her feet. But Luyu didn't dare stand up, for His Royal Highness hadn't punished her yet. Seeing that Feng Wu wasn't able to pull Luyu up and almost fell over during the process, Jun Linyuan was displeased. He glared at Luyu. Are you waiting for me to help you now? Luyu broke into a cold sweat. She was waiting for her punishment, but as it turned out, His Royal Highness had forgotten about it already. Luyu waved her hands in a hurry. No, of course not. She finally understood what Feng had told her. Offending Miss Feng Wu was much worse than offending His Royal Highness. Luyu didn't expect Miss Feng Wu to be able to stop His Royal Highness from killing her that easily, and she was still finding it difficult to digest that information. She knew that Miss Feng Wu was very important to His Royal Highness, but she didn't realize that it was an understatement. Miss Lu, do tell. What happened to Yi Yifei, Mu Yaoyao, and Princess Jun Wuxia? Feng Wu asked curiously, making no attempt to hide her gossipy tone. Luyu was able to understand why the Crown Prince cared about Miss Feng Wu so much. She had met many noble ladies before and none of them showed their true selves in front of Jun Linyuan. They always behaved so perfectly, as if every move they made was measured by a ruler. To His Royal Highness, every last one of them was probably as pretentious as the next. None of them could be as real as Miss Feng Wu. At that thought, Luyu liked Feng Wu even more. Yi Yifei. Mu Yaoyao. Seeing that Feng Wu enjoyed the gossip, Luyu told her everything that had happened on the fifth flood. With a bag of pine nuts in her hands, Feng Wu was absorbed in Luyu's narration as she ate. She enjoyed the story a lot. Will Yi Yifei be punished after she gets back home? Feng Wu tilted her head and asked. Well, Luyu glanced at Jun Linyuan. His Royal Highness was probably the only one that could answer that question. Miss Feng Wu, do you want Yi Yifei to be punished? Of course. She insulted me, she should live with the consequences. And Mu Yaoyao too. She has a habit of throwing mud at me. That girl has a foul mouth. Luyu stole a glance at Jun Linyuan and said a silent prayer for Mu Yaoyao and Yi Yifei. Those two couldn't have chosen a worse enemy than Miss Feng Wu. By the way, what about Princess Jun Wuxia? Feng Wu quickly glanced at Jun Linyuan. Chapter 484 The Proud Crown Prince. 27. Chapter 484. The Proud Crown Prince. 27. No one has shown up from the royal palace yet, so the princess is still waiting on the fifth floor. But I don't think Her Royal Highness is too happy about the arrangement. Feng Wu darted another look at Jun Linyuan. She was impressed by the young crown prince. Wasn't he afraid that the Empress would give him trouble? Luyu then saw that His Royal Highness was eyeing her impatiently. Her stomach lurched and she withdrew from the room, leaving the young couple to themselves. Are you sure the Empress won't give you trouble for this? Feng Wu went up to Jun Linyuan and asked curiously. What trouble? June Linyuan looked at Feng Wu in bewilderment. Feng Wu was speechless. Just then, Little Phoenix woke up with a yawn and picked up on June Linyuan's familiar aura right away. The bead! The bead! My abnormal flame bead! Little Phoenix was so agitated that it almost banged its head against the wall. Feng Wu jolted. Shit! She had forgotten all about it. She scratched her head. Feeling a little guilty, the bird burst into tears. You don't care about me. You don't care about me at all. I see that now. Wah! Feng Wu thought her head was going to explode. Of course I care about you. What? June Linyuan looked up and stared at her. Gosh. Feng Wu put her hands over her mouth and was shocked. Instead of talking in her head, she had blurted out her words for Little Phoenix. Oh God. Did June Linyuan think she was confessing her love for him? It's nothing, nothing. Feng Wu waved her hands, denying it. June Linyuan snickered. Nothing. Did she think he was deaf? This dishonest woman. All of a sudden, the Crown Prince was in a great mood. Seeing June Linyuan's face light up, Feng Wu asked gingerly, Your Royal Highness, can I ask for a favor? Shoot. June Linyuan darted a contemptuous look at her. That abnormal flame bead. Can I have it? Feng Wu smiled obsequiously. Seeing that June Linyuan was looking at her, she beamed at him. June Linyuan was speechless. This girl was so. You want this? He took the bead out. Yes. Yes, please. Feng Wu tried to grab it, but June Linyuan raised his hand over his head. Feng Wu jumped and jumped, but still couldn't reach it. She was vexed. Holding June Linyuan's arm with both hands, she yelled, Give it to me. Come and get it yourself. June Linyuan gloated. Outside, Feng stood there in silence, guarding the door. A tiny smile showed up on his face when he heard the cheerful voices inside. When was the last time His Royal Highness laughed like that? It was so good to be young. But Feng Wu didn't feel good at all. She couldn't reach the abnormal flame bead and she was exasperated. Seeing that the bead was so close but still out of reach, Little Phoenix was very anxious. Feng Wu was a head shorter than June Linyuan and her limbs weren't as long as his either. She couldn't get to the bead no matter what. An idea then struck Feng Wu. She hopped onto June Linyuan and began to climb up his body. Almost there. Both Feng Wu and Little Phoenix were excited. Neither of them noticed the pink color behind June Linyuan's ears. Just then, June Linyuan fell backward. Ah! Feng Wu cried out and gripped June Linyuan's shoulders involuntarily to stop herself from falling. Chapter 485 The Proud Crown Prince 28. Chapter 485 The Proud Crown Prince 28. Looking down, Feng Wu realized how intimate their position was. She blushed and jumped off June Linyuan right away. June Linyuan cleared his throat. It felt very awkward. Feng Wu broke the silence first. Resting her hands on her waist, she glowered at June Linyuan. What do I have to do to get that abnormal flame bead? Tell me. Little Phoenix was in tears. June Linyuan cleared his throat and resumed his haughty manner. He then sat down on the chaise lounge and played with the abnormal flame bead in his hand before glancing at Feng Wu. Did you forget what I told you last time? Last time? When was that? Feng Wu really couldn't remember. However, Little Phoenix remembered everything and reminded Feng Wu. The pouch. The pouch. Oh right, that jogged Feng Wu's memory. June Linyuan had given her a difficult task. He would trade the abnormal flame bead for a pouch. And he wouldn't take one of the embroidered ones her beautiful mother made, but insisted that Feng Wu had to make one herself. What kind of request was that? Feng Wu said helplessly, But I can't do embroidery, plus my hands hurt. You're asking too much. After waking up in this body, she had learned a lot of things from her master, but needlework wasn't one of them. Then forget about the bead. June Linyuan looked at the abnormal flame bead and murmured indifferently, I'll consume it myself. It'll improve my cultivation. Don't. Please don't. Feng Wu grabbed his sleeve. I'll do it. All right. June Linyuan looked at Feng Wu and shook his head earnestly. I thought your hands hurt. Let's call it off. Feng Wu snapped, They don't hurt now. Really? Not at all. June Linyuan tilted his head and pondered. I'm asking too much. That's not right. Feng Wu almost burst into tears. God damn it. Was Jun Linyuan making fun of her now? Grabbing Jun Linyuan by his arm, Feng Wu shook her head repeatedly. No, it's totally fine. I love needlework like a lot. Trust me. Jun Linyuan glanced at her. Really? Yes. Feng Wu decided to have Choling make one for her after she went back home. She would ask Choling to do it, which would be like writing with her less used hand. Jun Linyuan wouldn't be able to tell the difference. However, Feng Wu was still thinking about it when the Crown Prince snapped his fingers. Feng came in with a team. Yes, a team of people. There were at least 10 of them. Each was holding an object, from threads and clothes to embroidery frames. Everything one could possibly need for needlework was there. And there were fabrics of every color and every texture. Feng Wu broke into a sweat. Look at all those things. Had he robbed an embroidery shop? It's just a pouch. What's the big deal? Jun Linyuan, are you trying to trick me? Feng Wu threw a dirty look at Jun Linyuan. If I didn't know better, it looks like you want me to embroider a screen. Jun Linyuan glanced at Feng Wu arrogantly. It's my pouch and you need to be very serious about the job. That made Feng Wu drop her original plan. She had been thinking about doing it perfunctorily at first. What about I finish it at home? Jun Linyuan snorted. Are you sure you won't have someone do it for you? Like your maid? Feng Wu was speechless. How did he know? She was going to find another excuse when Jun Linyuan pressed her down in a chair. Do it now. Chapter 486, The Proud Crown Prince, 29. Chapter 486. The Proud Crown Prince, 29. Feng Wu sighed in resignation, but she didn't have any choice here. She sighed again. All right. With a long face, Feng Wu began to cut out the fabric she needed and started her needlework. Her beautiful mother always made sewing look so effortless, but when it was Feng Wu's turn, why wouldn't her stitches follow a straight line? You sew like a cripple trying to walk. Snatching the pouch out of Feng Wu's hand, Jun Linyuan took a look, then tossed it in the bin. Feng Wu cried out and tried to take it back. My pouch! She had worked so hard, and after several discarded products, this was the first one that actually looked like a pouch. And he had just thrown it away like that. Feng Wu tried to retrieve it, but Jun Linyuan raised his hand and set the entire bin on fire. Feng Wu was speechless. All she could do was glare at Jun Linyuan. The Crown Prince was awfully calm. Meeting Feng Wu's angry gaze, he casually said, Well, I still think I should consume this bead myself. That was the most effective threat. No. Feng Wu glared at him. This man simply wouldn't stop threatening her. And what was worse, his threats actually worked, for they hit Feng Wu in her sore spot. She was so mad. Sitting back down grumpily, Feng Wu picked up her needle again. She had been doing the job perfunctorily and hadn't cared about the crooked stitches. All she could think of was making one that wouldn't fall apart. However, Feng Wu realized now that Jun Linyuan wouldn't let her stop until she came up with one that he was satisfied with. He would make her repeat the process until then, which would be enough to drive her crazy. Feng Wu took a deep breath and suppressed her anger. Fine, it was just a pouch. After all the things she had gone through in the past 5 years, she wasn't going to be intimidated by a pouch. Smart as Feng Wu was, when she put her mind to it, she could learn anything very fast. She focused on her needlework, and in less than an hour, the pouch she made was much more presentable. The stitches weren't too fine by the standards of an expert, but they were already much better than the work of an ordinary embroidery worker. Feng Wu cheerfully showed the pouch to Jun Linyuan. Look, isn't it pretty? See how close the stitches are. Not everyone can do that. Feng Wu bragged. But the Crown Prince wasn't satisfied. He gave Feng Wu an indifferent glance. It's so bleak and ugly. Make another one. Feng Wu was speechless. Right now, Feng Wu was in no position to fight back, and she could only do as told. Well, it was just embroidery, not rocket science. Before long, Feng Wu showed Jun Linyuan a pouch with a few embroidered green leaves on it. The Crown Prince's face darkened. Is that how you see me? Like leaves in the background? Feng Wu was speechless. She had no choice but to make a new one from scratch. This time she added a few pink flowers. June Linyuan's face grew darker. Do I look like I'm into flowers? Do it again. Fengwu was speechless. This was so frustrating. But she could only swallow her anger, snatch the pouch back and make another one. It went on until Fengwu thought she was going to lose her mind. Green leaves? No. Flowers? No. Animals? No. Cartoon characters? Still no. It was outrageous. She sewed from noon to evening and was still making new pouches when the sun almost set. No. 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 Are you an idiot? What the hell is this? Make another one. Fengwu was speechless. She couldn't take it anymore. Smack. Fengwu threw a pouch on the table and glowered. Chapter 487 The Proud Crown Prince 30. Chapter 487 The Proud Crown Prince 30. Nothing pleases you. What do you want? June Linyuan, you never planned to give me that bead, did you? You must be enjoying yourself so much, making fun of me. June Linyuan was sitting in a chair and Fengwu was on her feet. Resting a hand on the back of the chair, Fengwu bent down toward him, looking very intimidating. Pissed, Fengwu seemed to emanate rage from head to toe, which was rather terrifying. June Linyuan glanced at her awkwardly, then looked away. But Fengwu wouldn't let him. Grabbing June Linyuan's chin, she forced him to meet her gaze. You're doing it on purpose. You never planned to give me that bead. You're going to keep forcing me to make new ones, aren't you? Fengwu hated being treated like a fool. The look in June Linyuan's eyes was almost plaintive. You don't know how to do it properly and you're blaming it on me. Fengwu took a deep breath. I don't know how to do it properly? Can you see how many I've made? I've done my best. I've jabbed my fingers with the needle 1,000,000 times. June Linyuan didn't say anything. You don't like any of my designs. What exactly do you have in mind? Fengwu fetched some pen and paper and smacked them on the table in front of June Linyuan. Draw it yourself. June Linyuan was embarrassed. No way. Do it. Fengwu stuffed the pen in June Linyuan's hand. I'm not going anywhere. Show me the fucking design you want on that pouch. Little Fengwu, watch your language. June Linyuan was displeased. Sew 100 pouches yourself and you'll be cursing too. Vexed, Fengwu had forgotten all about fear or veneration. She smacked June Linyuan on the shoulder. Draw it. That was awesome. Luyu came up to the top floor at that moment and was just in time to overhear that conversation outside the door. What a conversation. She looked up at Feng in resignation. Feng shrugged. Big deal. He had gotten used to it already. His Royal Highness is capable of acting so weak. No one would believe it even if word got out. Who would? A proud person like the Crown Prince wailing? Are you kidding me? Luyu pinched her thigh. It hurt. This was real. With her hands on her waist, Fengwu glared at June Linyuan. Draw it now or I'll think that you're putting me through hell on purpose. June Linyuan took a deep breath. Fine. I'll do it. What's the big deal? However, he hesitated a little before putting pen to paper. If she figured out what it was, the arrogant girl would definitely laugh at him. No one was allowed to laugh at the Crown Prince. Whoosh! With a few quick strokes, June Linyuan finished the drawing in no time. He tossed the pen away and stuffed the paper in Fengwu's hand. There! What did he draw? Fengwu unfolded the paper and was dumbfounded. What the hell was that supposed to be? A pair of some kind of bird, ducks or chickens, standing together. What are these two quails supposed to be doing? Fengwu looked bemused. Upon her honor, she really couldn't tell if they were chickens, ducks, geese or some other bird, so she called them quails at random. However, June Linyuan's face darkened suddenly and he looked pissed. The temperature in the room dropped abruptly. Fengwu shuddered and looked at June Linyuan in confusion. Chapter 488 The Proud Crown Prince 31. Chapter 488 The Proud Crown Prince 31. Face livid, June Linyuan glared at Fengwu in a threatening manner. It was so terrifying. Fengwu flinched and stepped back. Ahem. I didn't know you were into waterfowl. Well, you could have told me. It would have saved me a lot of trouble. Feng Wu took the drawing, went back to her seat, and started sewing. Were they waterfowl? They kind of looked like ducks. It was said that Jun Linyuan was a great painter, and that all the paintings in World Tower were his work. Feng Wu couldn't see it from the picture she was holding. She sewed 2 ducks on the pouch. As for the color, yellow ducks looked rather cute, and the pair were swimming side by side. Hence, Feng Wu finished the pouch in no time. She showed off her work to Jun Linyuan after it was done. Look, aren't they prettier than the ones you drew? Jun Linyuan was still sulking. He kept hearing Feng Wu's voice in his head. Quails, quails, quails. There, have a look. Feng Wu ran to the other side and insisted that Jun Linyuan look at it. Jun Linyuan glanced at the pouch. He was dazed on the spot. That horrible color, those hideous ducks, and that abominable. More importantly, he had drawn a pair of one. How had they now become yellow ducks? The Crown Prince almost exploded. Jun Linyuan, I did a great job, didn't I? I think it looks great. Feng Wu gloated. Heh, Jun Linyuan didn't know what to say. He made his bed and he now had to lie in it. Your smile isn't sincere at all. I worked very hard and I jabbed my fingers with the needle 100 times. Look, Feng Wu showed Jun Linyuan her hands. Right? It hurts a lot. The least you can do is recognize my contribution. Jun Linyuan looked into Feng Wu's limpid bright eyes, which reminded him of a doe. The pleading look she gave him made him want to rub her little head. Jun Linyuan patted her on the head. Fine. Yellow ducks it is. Did His Royal Highness just give in? Lu Yu's eyes widened in surprise. Feng nodded. That was a first. Feng was looking forward to a second, a third, and a fourth. You have your pouch. Can I have the abnormal flame bead now? Feng Wu put out an open palm in front of his face. Jun Linyuan tossed her the bead, looking disgruntled. The bead had barely touched Feng Wu's hand before it disappeared. Little Phoenix swallowed it immediately, fearing that someone else might take it away. After what happened, it wasn't unsurprising that it was scared. Feng Wu let out a breath of relief. Xiaoqi was back, and she had obtained the abnormal flame bead. The only thing she needed from Jun Linyuan now was the broken star piece. Her beautiful master. The way Feng Wu was staring at him gave the Crown Prince the creeps. What now? Feng Wu looked at him eagerly. What on earth do you want? When are you going to give me the broken star piece? Feng Wu asked in a pitiful voice. What do you need it for? Realizing that he still had something Feng Wu wanted, Jun Linyuan was back to his proud self. Of course it's for. Chapter 489 The Proud Crown Prince 32. Chapter 489. The Proud Crown Prince 32. Of course Feng Wu wouldn't tell him the truth. Her beautiful master was her biggest secret, and she wouldn't share it with anyone. I heard that, Feng Wu went on after a pause. I heard that the broken star piece can transform a person physically. Maybe I'll be able to cultivate again if I consume it. Jun Linyuan narrowed his eyes in a dangerous way and kept his gaze on Feng Wu. I mean it. It's possible. I'll have a completely different life if I can do that, right? Jun Linyuan, have some mercy. A life without cultivation is so miserable. Even people like Yi Yifei can bully me whenever they want. Ah. Her beautiful mother was as innocent as a white lotus, and after living with her for so many years, Feng Wu could imitate her perfectly. When she wanted to look like a delicate and touching beauty, she was second only to her mother. Jun Linyuan didn't say anything. Jun Linyuan, Your Royal Highness, Brother Jun. Feng Wu held Jun Linyuan's arm and swayed it back and forth. Outside, Lu Yu was dumbfounded. That voice and that tone. Even a woman like herself was smitten. There was no way His Royal Highness, who was already in love, could resist it. Jun Linyuan was over the moon. The girl was showering him with sweet talk again. He was Brother Jun when she wanted something from him, and once she got what she needed, he was Jun Linyuan again, and she would yell at him. Heh! The Crown Prince decided to teach the girl a lesson. He glanced at Feng Wu. Don't use that cloying tone. Sit down and speak normally. Okay. Feng Wu stood at attention in front of Jun Linyuan and looked at him with limpid eyes, which reminded him of a puppy dog. That was irresistible. June Linyuan turned away and closed his eyes to straighten his face before turning back to her. He cast a stern look at Feng Wu. You want that broken star piece? Yes. June Linyuan grinned. At any price. Feng Wu's stomach sank. At any price? What kind of price was he talking about? She was immediately on guard. Seeing that the girl was on the alert like a frightened bunny, June Linyuan was greatly amused. However, he still kept his face emotionless and stared at her with brooding eyes. Feng Wu said, What kind of price are you talking about? Imperial College is recruiting students. The broken star piece is yours if you can get in, and I can open the box for you. June Linyuan raised an eyebrow. Get into Imperial College? Did she have to expose her cultivation ability now? What if I don't want to go to Imperial College? Feng Wu gritted her teeth. Is that so? June Linyuan said arrogantly. Well, then I guess I'll have to consume it myself. How dare you? Feng Wu bellowed. That was the only way to save her master. I'll kill you if you do that. Feng Wu's eyes were bloodshot red and she screamed at June Linyuan like a mad person. June Linyuan was surprised. That was kind of overreacting, wasn't it? June Linyuan narrowed his eyes and studied Feng Wu's face. Feng Wu had calmed down already. To cover up her agitation, she cleared her throat. That's my only chance to recover my ability. You can't do that. I mean it. This is not the only broken star piece in the world. You can always find a second one. What's so special about it? June Linyuan gave Feng Wu a sidelong glance. Chapter 490 The Proud Crown Prince 33. Chapter 490. The Proud Crown Prince 33. Feng Wu was inwardly ecstatic. A second broken star piece. June Linyuan had to know where that second piece was. OMG. Feng Wu almost burst into tears. She rushed to June Linyuan's side and grabbed his collar. She couldn't hide the excitement in her voice. You know where the second piece is, don't you? Tell me. Where is it? The look in June Linyuan's eyes was even more brooding. That agitation didn't fit her usual behavior at all. The broken star piece. June Linyuan snorted. You're thinking of the second piece before even getting the first one. Feng Wu ground her teeth. Imperial College, is it? Fine, I'll do it. Give me the broken star piece after I get in. You'll also open the box for me and tell me where to find the second piece. June Linyuan darted a look at Feng Wu. There's no also. I only agreed to the first part. June Linyuan. Feng Wu glared at him. June Linyuan raised his chin and smirked in satisfaction. Feng Wu had no choice but to pick up his sleeve again. Brother June, Brother June, Brother June. I told you, enough with the cloying tone. June Linyuan threw a dirty look at Feng Wu and snapped, Fine, fine. I'll tell you where to find the second piece. Don't you feel ashamed talking to guys like that? Outside, Feng rubbed his nose in resignation. His Royal Highness was getting more and more dishonest these days. Feng Wu ignored June Linyuan's reprimand. She had gotten used to his lousy temperament by now. Once the deal was set, Feng Wu waved goodbye at June Linyuan and promptly left World Tower. Before June Linyuan knew it, Feng Wu was out of sight. She. The Crown Prince pointed in the direction Feng Wu left in. She left? Just like that? She didn't even flinch. Feng looked up at the sky in resignation. You're the one telling her off and you're the one who misses her as soon as she's gone. Your Royal Highness, how self-contradictory can you be? Feng Wu was back at the Feng Manor. Sister. Feng Xiaoqi ran up to her happily. Seeing Feng Xiaoqi's rosy cheeks, Feng Wu patted him on the head. How's your cultivation coming along? Because of Feng Xiaoqi's ultimate spiritual body, Feng Wu had given him ultimate spiritual divine power to work with. She had a hunch that Xiaoqi would progress as quickly as she had. Sister, my cultivation is so efficient that it feels like flying. Feng Xiaoqi was elated. I reached level 3 this morning and I thought I would make progress again just now, but what? Tell me if you run into any problems, or I won't know how to help you. You're the man of our family, and both Mum and I will need your protection in the future. Feng Wu patted Feng Xiaoqi's head, motivating him with his future responsibility. Feng Xiaoqi was exhausted from cultivation, but he glowed with excitement when he heard those words. Sister, don't worry. I'll protect all of you. Feng Wu asked, so what seems to be the problem? I ran out of spiritual energy. Feng Xiaoqi's pretty face wrinkled and he looked up at Feng Wu. Sister, that spiritual stone you gave me this morning. Chapter 491, The Proud Crown Prince, 34. Chapter 491, The Proud Crown Prince, 34. I've drained it already and Uncle Chiu told me that the stone was really expensive. Sister, I don't think I should go on cultivating anymore. We can't afford it. Xiaoqi grew sadder as he spoke and he was almost in tears. He was ashamed of himself for costing his family so much. Looking at her younger brother, Feng Wu was amused. She then rubbed his head the way one would a puppy. It felt really nice to touch. She then said confidently, it's just one top-grade spiritual stone. Don't worry. We can afford it. But sister, I used up one stone in a day. Top-grade spiritual stones were so expensive. Uncle Chiu said that one top-grade stone can cost as much as 10 years' worth of expenses for a household of 3. I spent all that money in one day. Feng Xiaoqi was contrite. But you're making rapid progress at the same time. I've found a place that can provide us with limitless top-grade spiritual stones. Soon we won't have to worry about spiritual stones anymore. Feng Wu reassured him. Feng Xiaoqi almost jumped up in excitement. Really? Sister, really? Feng Wu rubbed his head again. Of course. Have I ever lied to you? Feng Xiaoqi couldn't recall even one occasion where his sister hadn't told him the truth, and she always kept her promises. He beamed at that thought. Little Feng Wu, am I that easy to overlook? There was a wistful voice from a shaded corner. Feng Wu turned around and saw that it was Yuminji. He wore a dark purple robe today, which gave him an unruly and haughty look. He actually looked the way a superior cultivator should look. Feng Wu was reminded that Yuminji was incredibly capable himself. After all, he was as famous as Jun Linyuan. However, Yuminji seemed to be rather silly around her, which made her constantly ignore his capabilities. Feng Wu frowned. What are you doing here? Gosh, little Feng Wu, how forgetful can you be? Yuminji glared at her. What? Didn't you ask me to get that job for your uncle? I've been running back and forth the whole day to get it done. And not only didn't you offer me anything to drink, you asked me what I'm doing here? That's just not acceptable. Yuminji protested in an aggrieved tone. Feng Wu was embarrassed. Exactly what am I to you? Yuminji complained. Feng Wu said, well, I'm so sorry. So much happened today and I'm still trying to digest everything. Do forgive me. Right, the job? Feng Wu didn't find Yuminji all that reliable, and she hadn't placed much hope in his promise. However, it seemed that he had gotten it done when he had been out for a stroll. Yuminji gloated at the mention of it. Sticking out his chest and lifting his chin, he said, of course. It was a piece of cake. He then took a note out of his chest pocket and waved it in Feng Wu's face. What is it? Feng Wu asked. What do you think? Show me. Feng Wu reached for the note, but Yuminji raised his hand over his head. Beg me and I'll give it to you, said Yuminji arrogantly. Feng Wu took a deep breath. What was wrong with these men? As if one Jun Linyuan wasn't enough, Yuminji was saying that too. Feng Wu cast a stern look at Yuminji, then turned to leave. Chapter 492, The Proud Crown Prince, 35. Chapter 492. The Proud Crown Prince, 35. Hey! Yuminji took Feng Wu's arm right away. Where are you going? I'm not begging you. Feng Wu grunted. Fine, fine. Your Majesty, I'm begging you, okay? Please take this note, or my whole day's work will have been for nothing. Yuminji stuffed the note into Feng Wu's hand. That amused Feng Wu and she tittered. Seeing that Feng Wu had cheered up, Yuminji said grumpily, You're unbelievable. You asked for my help and you're giving me attitude? I have to be the only person who will put up with you. Feng Wu made a face at him. Seeing how happy the girl was, Yuminji felt that all his efforts had been worthwhile. It really is a note for the transfer. Yuminji, well done. Feng Wu gave Yuminji's chest a fist bump. I didn't think you could do it. What? Yu Minji stared at Feng Wu, but he couldn't hide his smugness. When I want something, I make sure I get it. This note is nothing. I can even make your uncle the minister of the Ministry of Official Personnel if you want. Feng Wu was speechless. You do realize that the Ministry of Official Personnel has a minister now, right? Yu Minji casually said. It won't if I kill him. Feng Wu's mouth fell open. You're joking, right? You'll be the one to decide if I'm joking or not. Yu Minji moved closer and winked at Feng Wu. His amorous eyes twinkled. Feng Wu was speechless. While Feng Wu and Yu Minji were bickering, Feng Yanfeng, Feng Wu's uncle, was on his way back home, feeling utterly defeated. He could still recall the severe and indignant look on Sir Yan's face. Mr. Feng, I see that the Feng family has a brilliant daughter. I bet with her around, you'll have a very promising future. The position of the Assistant Minister of the Ministry of Official Personnel is filled. Please leave. Tell Mr. Feng I'm not in when he comes back. Feng Yanfeng felt despair at Sir Yan's cold, merciless tone. To get that position, he had already offended the official in the Ministry of Rights. But now, the Ministry of Official Personnel had disqualified him for that post. He feared that he couldn't even go back to work as the Assistant Minister of the Ministry of Rights anymore. Feng Yanfeng harbored much bitter resentment against Feng Wu for that. It was all because of her. None of this would have happened if it hadn't been for her, and he would have become the Assistant Minister of the Ministry of Official Personnel by now. At that thought, Feng Yanfeng headed for Fallen Star Yard. Thump, thump, thump. Feng Yanfeng banged on the door to the yard. Before Granny Zhao could answer the door, Feng Yanfeng kicked it, trying to force his way in. However, Feng Wu had learned a few things since the last time the door was broken twice in a row. She had set up a simple reactive force formation on the door. The force which rebounded on a person when they knocked on the door was equivalent to the power they exerted. Hence, when Feng Yanfeng kicked with all his strength, he flew back and hit the big pagoda tree behind him. Feng Wu had set up something on that tree as well, as the second part of the mechanism she had designed. Feng Yanfeng cried out in pain. Feng Wu had smeared a special potion on the trunk of that tree. Hitting it would cause one excruciating pain. With a wave of her hand, Feng Wu switched off the third part of the mechanism. She didn't want to show all her cards so early. Uncle. Feng Wu ran out of the yard and looked at Feng Yanfeng innocently. What are you doing here? And how did you run into a tree in broad daylight? Chapter 493, The Proud Crown Prince, 36. Chapter 493. The Proud Crown Prince, 36. Feng Yanfeng didn't know how to explain the fact that he had smashed into the tree because he tried to kick the door open. It would sound ridiculous. Feng Yanfeng switched to an authoritative tone. Do you have any idea of the consequences of what you did in the Yin manor? Sir Yin holds a lot of grudges against us now, and I'm going to lose my job. Do you know how hard it is to work as a government official nowadays? The entire Feng clan has been implicated because you wouldn't swallow your pride. Feng Yanfeng had already been drunk on his way back, or he wouldn't be so talkative. Cheeks flushed, he pointed at Feng Wu. You should never have come back. What were you thinking? Go pack your things and go back to Northern Border City now. What was happening in Fallen Star Yard soon got out. Flying Snow Building had been rebuilt and Lady Wong was instructing the servants to put things back in the building when she got the news. My lady, great news. Ruyu went up to Lady Wong in a hurry, sounding exhilarated. My lord went to Fallen Star Yard and he's telling Miss Feng Wu to pack her things and get out. Lady Wong couldn't bear the sound of Feng Wu's name, but her face lit up when she heard the report. Really? He really said that? Yes. Very loudly. We heard it ourselves, every word of it. Ruyu nodded in excitement. That's great. Lady Wong tossed aside the things in her hands. Let's go have a look. Granny Gui followed Lady Wong out immediately. Feng Yiran and Feng Sang had gone back to Imperial College, but Feng Lu was at home. She was just as thrilled and went along with her mother. The idea of seeing Feng Lu getting kicked back to Northern Border City was so uplifting. Feng Lu was overwhelmed with excitement. She arrived at Fallen Star Yard to hear her dad ranting at Feng Wu. Pack your stuff. Go back to Northern Border City. Don't come back ever again. Feng Lu rushed to her mother's side and whispered, Mom, what's going on? Why is Dad so mad? Instead of whispering back, Lady Wang raised her voice. Your dad was implicated for what happened in the Yen Manor, and he may lose his job in the Ministry of Rights. That position he was trying to get at the Ministry of Official Personnel was given to someone else. None of that would have happened if it wasn't for a certain person. All was well before they came back. If they still have any consideration left for the clan, they should pack up and leave the Imperial capital now. Lady Wang had at least pretended to be nice, but after Yuminji took Flying Snow Building apart, she couldn't be bothered anymore. Feng Wu gave Feng Yanfeng a half-smile. Uncle, I see that you've forgotten our deal. What deal? You mean that 100,000? Feng Yanfeng smirked. Don't be so naive. The political world is so much more complicated than you think. That 100,000 taels of silver. Feng Wu took out that note and tossed it at him before he could finish his sentence. Feng Yanfeng's eyes lit up. He saw immediately that it was from one of the ministries, and the format indicated that it was a letter of appointment. He took another look and was dazed on the spot. Meanwhile, Feng Lu and Lady Wang were only getting started. Feng Wu, who the hell do you think you are? Shut your mouth and get out of the Imperial capital now. Smack. Chapter 494, The Proud Crown Prince, 37. Chapter 494. The Proud Crown Prince, 37. Smack. There was the crisp sound of a slap. The others thought at first that Feng Yanfeng had slapped Feng Wu, but Lady Wang pressed a hand to her cheek and stared at Feng Yanfeng in disbelief. You hit me. She thought she had said all the things he wanted to hear. What was wrong with that? Lady Wang almost collapsed. For she had always flattered herself to be Feng Yanfeng's beloved wife, which was how she had always presented herself to others. However, he had just slapped her in front of everyone. She thought she was going to lose her mind. Feng Yanfeng liked Lady Wang well enough, but only when it didn't damage his interests. Not to mention that Lady Wang was from an influential family herself. The guy sat on the fence and was always after material gain. At the sight of that letter of appointment, Lady Wang was tossed aside. Feng Yanfeng glared at her. You're just a woman. What do you know? Apologize to Xiao Wu now. Lady Wang's eyes widened in disbelief. Not only had she been slapped, she had to apologize to the girl. She wouldn't have it. Feng Wu darted a casual look at the letter in Feng Yanfeng's hands. I can give it to you, I can also take it back. Feng Yanfeng had examined it already. The letter was genuine from the paper, the format, the seal, everything. And it had bypassed Sir Yan. The order had come directly from His Majesty. What did that mean? When Sir Yan was outright against it, Feng Wu had still been able to get him an appointment from the Emperor. Whoever made this happen had to be very well connected. Feng Yanfeng broke into a cold sweat. He shuddered and wiped his sweat. He then glowered at Lady Wang. What are you doing standing around? Apologize. Feng Yanfeng shoved Lady Wang. She had never seen such a fierce look in his eyes before. Frightened, Lady Wang stared at Feng Yanfeng with a blank face. Feng Lu was equally stunned. She watched in bewilderment and only came back to herself just then. Rushing to her father, she screamed, Dad! What's wrong with you? Have you lost your mind? Why are you on Feng Wu's side now? She should be kicked out. She's such a dash. Shut up. Feng Yanfeng broke into a cold sweat again. For he saw that Feng Wu was going to tear the letter in half. No, that was his appointment letter, and his way into the Ministry of Official Personnel. Moreover, judging by the part he had read, holy shit. It wasn't a letter for the position of assistant minister. It was for the minister of the Ministry of Official Personnel. Feng Wu had to have done it on purpose. Feng Yanfeng was obsessed with getting promoted, and he would willingly trade his soul for a higher position. If he had still hesitated a little over the position of assistant minister, the idea of becoming a minister swept away all his hesitation. Feng Wu had taken that letter back. She wouldn't give it to Feng Yanfeng that easily. Moreover, it was like Feng Wu said. She was able to get him the letter, and she could destroy that opportunity just as easily. Feng Lu had no idea what was going on and was still screaming. I don't understand. Why? What's so incredible about this woman? Dad, why are you on her side? You said you were going to kick her out yourself. Why, Master Feng, you really are going to kick me out? Feng Wu put the letter into her chest pocket and clapped her hands. All right. I'll take my family back to where we came from. Chapter 495, The Proud Crown Prince, 38. Chapter 495. The Proud Crown Prince, 38. Feng Yanfeng was exasperated. No, please don't. The last thing Feng Yanfeng wanted now was for Feng Wu to leave, for she knew someone that was influential enough to take away Sir Yan's job. Could it be young Lord Feng? No, even that young lord wasn't important enough to do that. Could it be His Royal Highness? Feng Yanfeng's eyes lit up. So, Feng Wu had really hooked up with the Crown Prince. He knew it. Feng Wu was so pretty that it would be such a waste if she didn't become the Crown Prince's concubine. Great. With Feng Wu in the Crown Prince's bed, the Feng clan's future looked very promising. Feng Yanfeng was over the moon. He rushed to Feng Wu's side and said in an obsequious voice, Xiao Wu, I was only joking. Don't take it too seriously. Ha ha. That was a drunk person talking. Men talk bullshit after a few cups. I'm sure you understand, right? Feng Yanfeng was indeed an experienced fence-sitter. Jumping ship came so naturally to him. A moment ago, he had been roaring at Feng Wu, but he was all kind and smiling now. Feng Wu wasn't going to cut him loose that easily. She stood there with her hands behind her back and raised her chin. Uncle, was Feng Lu drunk as well? And what about my aunt? Did your whole family just decide to pick on me as a team? Feng Lu was furious. Yes, that's exactly what we're doing. Bite me. Feng Yanfeng waved his hands. Xiao Wu, my dear Xiao Wu, that was just a big misunderstanding. How can you think so lowly of me? I was only joking. He was thinking about the position of Minister of the Ministry of Official Personnel. Getting that job meant that he would be in charge of the appointment or transfer of all officials in the empire. With so much power, how lucrative was that position? Seeing the greedy look in Feng Yanfeng's eyes, Feng Wu smirked inwardly. If she told Feng Yanfeng that he had to kill Feng Lu to get the job, she was sure that he would do it without hesitation. Feng Wu said a silent prayer for Feng Lu. Well, uncle, you might be joking, but Feng Lu and my aunt certainly don't look like it. Crossing her arms, Feng Wu darted a sidelong glance at Feng Yanfeng. Did he think he could get away with it by saying that it was a joke? The position of the Minister of the Ministry of Official Personnel was way more valuable than that. You lot, come here. Feng Yanfeng gave a wave of his hand. His guards rushed in at the command. Feng Lu has been bullying her sister, and what she did to Feng Wu in the Yen manor almost led to a serious blunder. Lash her 50 times for her abominable behavior. Feng Lu was dumbfounded. He was her own father. If he couldn't stand up for her, the least he could do was not harm her. Dad! Feng Lu cried out. Feng Yanfeng's guards took Feng Lu down as easily as handling a chicken. Do you need a bench? I'll get you one. Feng Xiaoqi quickly ran into the room and took out a bench. Do you need a whip as well? We have that too. Feng Yanfeng was speechless. He was only putting up a show for Feng Wu, but now, at that thought, he couldn't help but throw a dirty look at Feng Xiaoqi. Feng Xiaoqi hid behind Feng Wu and said timidly, Uncle, you're so scary. On guard, Feng Wu narrowed her eyes. Feng Yanfeng waved his hands in a hurry and forced out a laugh. Xiaoqi, you're so easily scared. Now go get that whip for your uncle. Sure, that was a job Feng Xiaoqi liked. He returned in no time with a black whip. Chapter 496. The Proud Crown Prince 39. Chapter 496. The Proud Crown Prince 39. They had a few whips in the house, but the black one was the only one with barbs. Feng Yanfeng's face darkened when he saw the whip. Feng Lu's mouth fell open. Lady Wang thought she was going to pass out. My lord! Don't! Please don't do this. Lady Wang rushed to Feng Yanfeng and burst into tears. My lord, didn't you say that Feng Wu was to be blamed for everything that happened at the Yen Manor, and that Lu Er only did what she did because Feng Wu was a bad influence? If you're really going to punish our daughter, you have to punish Feng Wu as well. Otherwise, I won't let you do this to our daughter. Punish Feng Wu as well? Feng Yanfeng smirked. He couldn't shower Feng Wu with enough compliments at the moment. Punish her? Was she joking? You lot escort the lady back to her room. As for Feng Lu, she's not going anywhere until she gets those 50 lashes. No mercy. Do it now. Whip her as hard as you can. Lady Wang passed out from her fury. As for Feng Yanfeng's guards, the head of the clan had made the decision, and they would follow his orders to the T. Hence, they spared no effort with the whipping. Ah! Feng Lu burst into tears. It wasn't just from the physical pain, but from her frustration and disappointment in her father as well. Xiao Wu, the letter. Feng Yanfeng eyed the letter in Feng Wu's hands eagerly. Since Feng Yanfeng was being rather cooperative, Feng Wu casually handed over the appointment letter. Feng Yanfeng unfolded it immediately. Reading the gilded words on the paper, which included Minister of the Ministry of Official Personnel, Feng Yanfeng was overwhelmed with excitement. He had hoped for the assistant minister post, but had gotten the minister position instead. That was completely unexpected. Holding the letter, Feng Yanfeng turned to leave. He couldn't hide the excitement on his face. His head was swimming. Feng Wu stopped him grumpily. Uncle, haven't you forgotten something? What? Feng Yanfeng couldn't think straight. All he knew was that he was thrilled. Feng Wu made a money-counting gesture with her fingers. Feng Yanfeng almost rolled his eyes. Seriously? That's what you're thinking about now? She was able to get him this job and she had hooked up with His Royal Highness. 100,000 shouldn't be a problem for her at all. Feng Wu smiled. Uncle, are you going to renege on your debt now? As a matter of fact, that was exactly what Feng Yanfeng was thinking. In his mind, Feng Wu's money was the Feng clan's money, which in turn was equivalent to his own money. Why bother transferring it? However, seeing that Feng Wu looked displeased, Feng Yanfeng said, Don't worry. I'll give you the money. Once I start this job, I'll have more money than you can imagine. After that, Feng Yanfeng left happily with the letter. Yuminji came out to the yard and saw that Feng Wu was watching Feng Yanfeng leave with a wicked smile on her face. Aren't you worried that he won't keep his promise? Yuminji asked. Feng Wu smiled. I'm counting on it. She then asked Yuminji, I asked for an assistant minister position. Why did you make it a minister? The heads of the 6 ministries were such important positions that the appointment of these officials should be carefully evaluated. What was His Majesty thinking? Yuminji gave her an enigmatic smile. But you didn't object to it, did you? What were you thinking? Those whom God wishes to destroy, He first makes mad, said Feng Wu indifferently. I thought the same thing. Yuminji looked at Feng Wu affectionately. Feng Wu found his gaze a bit too intense. It's late. You should go back home. You ungrateful girl. After everything I've done for you, you're chasing me away without so much as offering me a glass of water, Yuminji whined. Chapter 497 The Proud Crown Prince, 40. Chapter 497 The Proud Crown Prince, 40. Feng Wu could put her uncle aside for the time being. After Yuminji left, Feng Wu lay down on her bed and went over the current situation in her head. Her top priority now was to purchase Grand Secretary Feng's manor next door. Her family was in urgent need of spiritual stones for their cultivation, and Feng Wu wanted to make use of the spiritual stone lode underground and turn the Feng manor into a spiritual formation, which would help their cultivation greatly. The next thing on her list was to get into Imperial College. Only then would June Linyuan give her that broken star piece. Feng Wu was instantly motivated when she reminded herself that her beautiful master could wake up for a brief moment. As for Little Phoenix, it had gone into hibernation after swallowing the abnormal flame bead and wouldn't wake up for a while. Feng Wu visited the dry well in the Feng manor in the middle of the night, where she asked Feng Tutu to get a few spiritual stones for the others to use in their cultivation. Top-grade spiritual stones? Sister, I didn't know we had them. Feng Xiaoqi was exhilarated. Of course we have them. Use as many as you want. Feng Wu was very free with other people's money. She gave 5 each to Feng Xiaoqi, Uncle Qiu and Qiuling. Uncle Qiu was thrilled. Miss, I think I should stick with medium-grade spiritual stones. The top-grade ones are too valuable. Feng Wu stuffed the stones into Uncle Qiu's hands. We have more than enough. Feel free to do whatever you want with them. The most important thing is to improve your cultivation levels. Uncle Qiu was greatly touched. Even the masters of other families couldn't get their hands on top-grade spiritual stones, to say nothing of servants. Qiuling was even more flustered. Miss, I think low-grade spiritual stones are good enough for me. Qiuling was the only level 1 spiritual master here, and she thought she would be wasting the high-quality stones. Just imagine how much gold they could trade these stones for. She couldn't bring herself to use them. Feng Wu shook her head. Spiritual stones filled the underground tunnels of the manor next door. There was an entire spiritual stone lode. Once she purchased that manor, it would be like a rocket for her and her family in their cultivation. Therefore, she had to have that load regardless of the cost. The following day, shortly after daybreak, Sister! Feng Xiaoqi rushed into Feng Wu's room in excitement. Yes. Feng Wu was in the middle of getting dressed and she looked at her brother in bewilderment. Sister! Feng Xiaoqi's cheeks were flushed. I made it to level 4. I'm a level 4 spiritual master. Sister, do you hear me? Feng Xiaoqi was trembling with excitement. Level 4? Already? Didn't she just get him back the day before yesterday? Feng Wu examined him and saw that he was right. How did you do it? Even Feng Wu was curious. I don't know. Feng Xiaoqi was at a loss. Remember those 5 spiritual stones you gave me yesterday? Feng Wu nodded. Yup. I didn't want them to get stolen, so I put them under my pillow and slept on them. Feng Wu nodded. Yup. When I woke up this morning, I saw that all 5 stones were in tiny pieces. Feng Xiaoqi's eyes sparkled and his long eyelashes reminded one of 2 little fans. He said in an innocent tone, Then I realized that I had become a level 4 spiritual master. I don't know how I got there. Feng Wu was speechless. Sister, do you know why? Feng Xiaoqi asked innocently as he tugged on Feng Wu's sleeve. Feng Wu rubbed her forehead and took a deep breath. How unfair. Chapter 498, The Proud Crown Prince, 41. Chapter 498. The Proud Crown Prince, 41. Sister? Feng Xiaoqi tugged on Feng Wu's sleeve. Feng Wu said, What? Why aren't you talking to me? Why did the spiritual stones break and why did I make a breakthrough? Why? The boy looked confused. Feng Wu said grumpily, Feng Xiaoqi, stop asking already. I'm feeling very defeated at the moment, so don't make it worse. Huh. Feng Xiaoqi scratched his head. Sister, Feng Wu chuckled. Sister, you're not mad. I was so scared. Feng Xiaoqi let out a breath of relief. Feng Wu rubbed his head. Xiaoqi, I kept you from cultivating for the past 5 years. And you followed my instructions without fail. You never tried to practice behind my back. It's time you earned your reward. Feng Wu would have cultivated in secret if she were him. But Xiaoqi was such an obedient boy. Feng Wu told him not to cultivate and he really hadn't for 5 years. He deserved to make such rapid progress. Just then, Xiao Wu. An excited voice came from outside. Chaoga. It was indeed her. Feng Wu turned around and saw Duan Chaoga rush into the yard. Xiao Wu, Chaoga was still chubby, but she looked a lot more proportionate already. I can finally see you. It's so hard to find you. I almost broke into a fight with them. Feng Wu smiled. Why are you here so early? After yesterday, how could I not come visit you? I would have come last night, but I was afraid they would think I was a thief. Chaoga beamed at Feng Wu. Wait, why are you reading these? A few books were scattered around on Feng Wu's desk. Chaoga flipped through them in passing and her eyes flickered. Why aren't they the reading materials for Imperial College's literacy test? What do you need them for? Feng Wu raised an eyebrow. To take the exam, of course. But, Chaoga paused, then said hesitantly, But don't you have to be at least a level 9 spiritual master to get into Imperial College? And Feng Wu didn't have any cultivation ability, did she? She wasn't even qualified to apply. Feng Wu smiled. That won't be a problem. Huh. Chaoga was confused. Feng Wu gave a wave of her hand and a magpie on the roof nearby tumbled down. When it almost hit the ground, Feng Wu pinched her fingers together and the bird was suspended in midair. Chaoga was astonished. Turning around, she looked at Feng Wu in disbelief. Feng Wu grinned. Chaoga said, "Xiao Wu, are you telling me that you actually can cultivate?" Feng Wu's smile broadened. Ah! Chaoga's thrilled cry almost tore the roof off. Covering her mouth with both hands, Chaoga burst into tears. Oh God! Xiao Wu wasn't a good-for-nothing. She was awesome. She really was. Chaoga was dazed on the spot at the discovery. Her head went blank and she didn't know where to put her hands. It was more exciting than experiencing a breakthrough herself. Xiao Wu, you have your ability back, Sob. You can cultivate. You're not useless. I knew it. Chaoga couldn't stop her tears and she almost passed out from crying. Feng Wu had no choice but to calm her down. Chapter 499 The Proud Crown Prince, 42. Chapter 499. The Proud Crown Prince, 42. It was common knowledge that millions of candidates participated in Imperial College's entrance exam every year. The exam consisted of a written test and a physical tryout. The top 1,000 candidates of the written test would qualify to take part in the physical tryout, and the 100 students with the best scores in the latter would be admitted. Feng Wu darted a look at Chaoga. Chaoga, join me for the exam. Huh? Me? Chaoga found the suggestion unbelievable. But I can't, can I? I can take part in the written test, but to apply for the physical one, you have to be a level 9 spiritual master at least. I'm only a level 7 now. And she had only made a breakthrough because Feng Wu had pointed her in the right direction with that inky rain painting. Feng Wu rolled her eyes. The exam is 7 days away, isn't it? Xiao Wu, are you saying that I can go from level 7 to level 9 in 7 days? How is that even possible? Chaoga wouldn't believe it. Feng Wu smiled. Why not? As a matter of fact, I think it's doable. Do you think I'll be able to achieve that? Yes, Feng Wu said earnestly. All right. Chaoga smacked her hand on the table. If Xiao Wu says I can do it, I can do it. You're applying for Imperial College? Count me in. Feng Wu was doing it all for Chaoga's good. If the girl could get into Imperial College, she would no longer have to go back to her loveless family. If she wanted, she could come live with Feng Wu. Feng Wu made a mental note that after she bought the Feng Manor, she would invite Chaoga over to cultivate there as well. The girl would be thrilled at the speed of her progress. However, Chaoga wavered when she came back to reality. But Xiao Wu, we only have 7 days and we don't even know what the written exam looks like. What are we gonna do? What kind of questions do they usually have in the written test? Feng Wu asked casually. Chaoga felt like crying. Xiao Wu, from the way you put it, I thought you were ready for it, but in fact you don't even know the type of questions in the written exam? Are you trying to scare me to death? Feng Wu shrugged. The idea of going to Imperial College never occurred to me before. When did you come up with the idea then? Yesterday. Chaoga was rendered speechless. Feng Wu said, Why are you giving me that look? Taking Feng Wu's hand, Chaoga said sincerely, Xiao Wu, how about we give up? Why? Feng Wu was bewildered. Chaoga was very serious. Xiao Wu, people usually take at least 10 years to prepare for this entrance exam. Only after 10 years of studying and practicing is one qualified to sit the exam. And we're going to just walk in like this. The physical tryout aside, we'll probably hand in blank sheets for the written exam. That bad? Feng Wu frowned. Yes. Xiao Wu, have you read any of the past exam papers that got out? The questions are so profound. They cover everything from literature, history, art, and geography to theories on elements, formation, and even medicine, basically anything you can think of. How are we even going to begin to answer any of those without 10 years of preparation? There's also a discourse on politics which can be anything. We probably won't be able to even understand the question. So how about we drop it now? Can it be that difficult? Feng Wu frowned. Yes, it can. Xiao Wu, the maximum score for the written exam is 300, which takes up 30% of the total score. Without any preparation, we might as well give up on those 300 marks now, Chowga said in resignation. Chapter 500 The Proud Crown Prince, 43. Chapter 500. The Proud Crown Prince, 43. Can we get any sample papers? Fengwu asked. Chowga shook her head. Only the teachers of Imperial College have those. I heard that Grand Secretary Feng is one of the guest advisors at Imperial College and he played a big part in the design of the exam papers. He's been head of the exam board for the past few years. Fengwu's eyes lit up. Grand Secretary Feng. Fengwu didn't know many names in the imperial capital, but Grand Secretary Feng. She had been meaning to get in touch with him in the last few days. She had her eye on Grand Secretary Feng's manner. Fengwu asked, "Are you referring to Grand Secretary Feng, the one that's retiring soon?" Chowga nodded. That's him. It's said that Grand Secretary Feng is from the south, and he's planning to go back to his hometown after retirement. I heard that he has already resigned from all his government positions. Sigh. I wish we knew Grand Secretary Feng. That way at least we could borrow some past papers from him. We're running around in the dark with our eyes closed at the moment. Fengwu clapped her hands. Let's go to Grand Secretary Feng then. In fact, Fengwu was quite confident about the breadth and depth of her knowledge, but it would be safer to have access to some sample questions. Moreover, Chowga needed such sample questions even more. And it just so happened that Grand Secretary Feng lived right next door to Fengwu. It would be such a waste if she didn't take advantage of that. Chowga didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Xiao Wu, what are you thinking? You do realize who Grand Secretary Feng is, right? He's like a national treasure. We can't just walk in and talk to him. Plus, we can't even get near him even if we know where he lives. I'll think of something. Fengwu sat down and tapped the table with her fingers. She then looked up at Chowga. Do you know who Grand Secretary Feng's close friends are? I have no idea. But I've heard that Grand Secretary Feng specializes in formations, and he's as competent in that field as Grandmaster Wu. Maybe Grandmaster Wu is his good friend? Chowga didn't sound very certain. Grandmaster Wu as in Priest Wu? Wasn't he that Master Bian's teacher? An idea struck Fengwu and she snapped her fingers. Priest Wu? Well, if he's the one, haha, I've left a hint for him already, said Fengwu cheerfully. A hint? Chowga looked at Fengwu in confusion. When? Yesterday in Elegant Ink Gallery. You were there as well. Fengwu reminded her. Do you remember that Master Bian? Of course. What he said almost got us killed. Chowga flared up at the mention of that name and she clenched her fists angrily. That Master Bian certainly didn't impress her. Fengwu said, I made that Master Bian purchase that whistling vase in the end. Right, Xiao Wu, you set him up in the end. Ha ha ha. That Master Bian's face almost turned green. Good job. He deserved that for working against us. Fengwu said. But I didn't set him up. Huh. Chowga was confused. I gave him an opportunity, Fengwu said cryptically. But it seems that he gave it away. What? Chowga was even more confused. She understood every word Xiao Wu said, but put them together into a sentence and she was at a loss. Fengwu explained to her, if he had been clever enough, he should have shown up outside Fallen Star Yard and begged for my forgiveness. But he didn't. Huh. Chowga was dumbfounded. What was that about? English, please. Chapter 501 The Proud Crown Prince 44. Chapter 501. The Proud Crown Prince 44. Seeing that she had successfully confused Chowga, Fengwu chuckled. You don't have to understand everything. All you need to know now is that we can start from this Grandmaster Wu and work our way up to Grand Secretary Feng. Once they made Grand Secretary Feng's acquaintance, all would be easy. They could borrow as many past papers as they wanted. Moreover, Fengwu was trying to purchase Grand Secretary Feng's manor, and she had been looking for a chance to meet the old man. But she hadn't been able to find one until now. Fengwu had thought about using Feng Sun as a go-between, But she then realized that June Linyuan didn't like her interacting with Feng Sun too often, although she had no idea why. Hence, she had to depend on herself now. But how are we supposed to get to know Grandmaster Wu? Will Master Bien recommend us to him? Chaoga found that approach rather unreliable. That's right. Chaoga smacked a hand on her thigh and cried out, I remember. You remember what? Feng Wu looked at her in bewilderment. Master Bien participated in the creation of Imperial College's essence-gathering formation, right? I just remembered that someone told me that his master was a guest advisor at Imperial College and a big shot in the formation department. Come to think of it, they were referring to Grandmaster Wu. Chaoga sighed with emotion. Both Feng and Wu are valuable assets of the Empire, and I'd be over the moon if they were to somehow appreciate our capabilities. But they're such superior figures that I can't see how we're going to get ourselves noticed. Sigh. Feng Wu smiled. Not necessarily. Just then, Uncle Cho came in and looked at Feng Wu in a strange way. Feng Wu was confused. Uncle Cho, what's wrong? Do you have news for me? Uncle Cho said awkwardly, Miss, didn't you tell me to ask around about where Grandmaster Wu lives? Feng Wu nodded. If I'm not mistaken, Priest Wu is coming this way. Uncle Cho didn't know how to describe his feelings at that moment. Exactly how lucky could Miss Wu be? As soon as she wanted to find out where Grandmaster Wu lived, Grandmaster Wu was on her doorstep. That's a happy coincidence. Even Feng Wu was surprised and she rose to her feet involuntarily. Chaoga's eyes widened. Uncle Cho, are you talking about the Grandmaster Wu? The treasure of the Empire? Uncle Cho nodded in a solemn manner. Yes. Master Bien was with him, so it has to be the guy. Are they coming here? Chaoga cried out in surprise. No. If I've guessed right, they're going to the Feng Manor. Feng Wu looked pensive. Please don't tell her that Priest Wu had his eye on the Feng Manor as well. Xiao Wu, this is a great opportunity. What are we going to do? Chaoga tugged at Feng Wu's sleeve in excitement. Talk about sheer luck. Priest Wu and Grand Secretary Feng were under the same roof now, and it would be such a waste if they didn't seize this opportunity. Rubbing her chin, Feng Wu walked back and forth in the room. Her head was spinning and several ideas came to her, but she ruled all of them out. All of a sudden, Feng Wu's eyes lit up. She knew what to do. At the same time, in the Feng Manor next door to the Feng Manor, Grand Secretary Feng stood in front of a window and was examining the whistling vase in an affectionate way. He had noticed the unusual characteristics of this whistling vase yesterday, which was why he had decided to buy it. However, after examining it closely last night, Grand Secretary Feng realized in surprise that Chapter 502 The Proud Crown Prince 45. Chapter 502. The Proud Crown Prince 45. Grand Secretary Feng realized that although the vase itself was a fake antique, the formation within was very profound. Every time he listened to it, he had a different feeling. It was amazing. Grand Secretary Feng was a gaunt old man. He beckoned at someone behind him. Almost instantly, his old steward showed up. Find out who that young lady is. Be thorough about it. Yes. The steward left as quickly as he had shown up. How amazing! General Secretary Feng sighed with emotion. At such a young age, she could come up with such an intricate formation in such a short time. She's a genius. There's no doubt about it. Grand Secretary Feng had seen his fair share of the world, and had met more than enough geniuses. However, none of those could compare with the whistling vase girl. What a spectacular girl. I wonder if I'll be able to see her again. Grand Secretary Feng regretted not taking her more seriously earlier. Grand Secretary Feng held some old grudges against Priest Wu from back in the day, and he had decided that he would use this opportunity to laugh at the latter. Outside the Feng Manor, Master Bien helped Priest Wu out of the carriage. Priest Wu was an old man with white hair and a goatee. Despite his age, he was hale and hearty and had a youthful look on his face. Just then, bang! A rock hit the carriage. Priest Wu dodged to the left and everyone looked up at the top of the wall. Feng Wu sat there with her legs dangling over the wall. Are you Priest Wu? Feng Wu only knew the man by name and had never met him in person before. Hence she asked the question curiously. Feng Wu sat there against the light and the evening glow limned her figure. With the halo around her she looked like a fairy. Priest Wu didn't linger on Feng Wu's face. He saw what Feng Wu was holding and frowned. That's too valuable a thing for someone this young to play with. How wasteful. The moral degeneration of the world is getting worse day by day. He walked off, shaking his head. Master Bian followed Priest Wu everywhere. Chang Yu, his senior martial brother, was the one who usually did the job. However, Chang Yu had been ill in the last few days, and the honorable task had landed on Master Bian's shoulders. It was such a rare opportunity that Master Bian spared no effort to make Priest Wu's life as comfortable as possible. Delighted, Priest Wu had decided to teach his student an advanced formation later. Master Bian had realized that as well and was feeling very smug. He recognized Feng Wu immediately. It's you. Master Bian frowned. Priest Wu darted a look at Master Bian and sounded displeased. You know her? Yes, Master, said Master Bian. She's the girl I told you about, the one who swindled me out of 1,000 top-grade spiritual stones. Master, do you not know her? Priest Wu frowned. Why should I know such a vain girl? That settled Master Bian's mind. This Miss Feng Wu had mentioned Priest Wu that day, which had flustered him quite a bit as he feared that she somehow knew his master. Master Bian smirked. It was a good thing he hadn't given his master that whistling vase as the girl had said to. As he helped Priest Wu into the Feng Manor, Master Bian darted a contemptuous look at Feng Wu. Chaoga was upset. What did that old man mean? What vain girl? How could he say such things about Xiao Wu? Feng Wu only smiled. Chapter 503 The Proud Crown Prince, 46. Chapter 503. The Proud Crown Prince, 46. Xiao Wu, why are you smiling? Seriously, you wear such simple and modest clothes. How did he come to that conclusion? That's a mean old man. Chaoga said indignantly. Feng Wu only smiled at first, but she was so amused that she soon broke into laughter. Chaoga stared at her in bewilderment. Why are you laughing? You were told off. Feng Wu chuckled. My beautiful master was right. Priest Wu is an upright man who hates it when people let formations go to waste. That man was Priest Wu, all right? Beautiful master? As in that beautiful master from your dreams? Chaoga was intrigued. But Feng Wu didn't want to talk about her beautiful master with Chaoga, for her master was her own secret, and she didn't want to share it with anyone else. Feng Wu grunted proudly. I'm not going to talk about it. Chaoga said in resignation. What about Priest Wu then? Where did you hear about what he's like? And whoever told you that sounds so superior? Feng Wu said stubbornly, I'm not telling you. Chaoga stared at Feng Wu. Every time you don't tell me something, it has to do with that beautiful master in your dreams. Feng Wu gloated. She then gave a wave of her hand. Let's go. Where to? The Feng Manor. Feng Wu grinned. That's where Priest Wu went and that's where we're going. Chaoga was dubious about that plan. Priest Wu was at Grand Secretary Feng's place as a guest. There was no way they would be invited in as well. She heard the conversation between Feng Wu and Steward Feng. The steward said, Miss, I'm sorry, but we're not accepting visitors today. Chaoga looked at Feng Wu. I told you. See. Feng Wu said matter-of-factly, Isn't the manor for sale? We're not visitors but buyers. Chaoga was speechless. She hadn't seen that coming. Why were they going to buy the manor? Xiao Wu was clever. Chaoga didn't worship the genius girl for nothing. Steward Feng hesitated. But we're entertaining an honorable guest today. I'm afraid you'll have to come back another day for the house tour. Feng Wu smiled. That won't be necessary. I think the manor looks great. Steward Feng thought to himself, of course you do. Everyone thinks this manor is great. He said with an impassive face, the manor is selling for 100,000 taels of silver. All right. And a 1,000-year-old ginseng, a 5,000-year-old lingji mushroom, and a 10,000-year-old Chinese knotweed as well. All right. Moreover, you'll only qualify to purchase the manor if you can answer the question on this piece of paper in 3 days. Steward Fong handed Feng Wu a piece of paper. Feng Wu had seen him give Ye Fei the same piece of paper when she had sat on the wall the other day. Feng Wu had planned to take a peek at Ye Fei's paper when she followed the ladder to World Tower, but after everything that happened she forgot all about it. Now she finally knew what the question was. Seeing Feng Wu read the question on the spot, Steward Fong said grumpily, "You have 3 days to think about it. There's no need to rush. Miss, you should leave now." He tried to shoo Feng Wu out the door after that. However, Feng Wu only gestured at Chaoga. "Give me a pen, please." Chaoga had come prepared and she took out a ready-to-use writing brush from her chest pocket. Unlike a regular writing brush, which had to be dipped into ink to use, this one came with a soak tip and could be used instantly. Whoosh! Feng Wu started writing right away. She gave the pen back to Chaoga a minute later and handed the paper back to Steward Fong. "I don't need 3 days. I've solved the problem already. Mr. Fong, please give the answer to your master." Feng Wu clapped her hands. Steward Fong didn't check the answer, for he didn't understand it. Chapter 504 It should have been yours. Chapter 504 It should have been yours. But the look he gave Feng Wu wasn't friendly at all. For he thought that Feng Wu was being disrespectful, and that she had only written down some random nonsense. "Quick, give it to your master," Chaoga prompted him. Although she had no idea what Feng Wu had in mind, Chaoga never questioned Feng Wu's decisions. Steward Fong frowned. Of all the potential house buyers he had met, this girl was the only one who treated the test so casually. All the others had been very serious. At that thought, the steward disliked Feng Wu even more. Hence he waved Feng Wu off. "I'll show it to my master later. Go back and wait for further instructions." Meanwhile, in the Fong manor, Grand Secretary Fong and Priest Wu sat on their knees facing each other. Both kept their backs ramrod straight and had tranquil looks in their eyes. Between them was a bullywood tea table. On the table stood the porcelain whistling vase. Master Bian knelt next to Priest Wu, while a teenager stood at Grand Secretary Fong's side. The teenager had a refined and elegant air about him. With a glance, one could tell that he was from a noble family, and that he was one of the eminent offspring. If Feng Wu were here, she would recognize him right away, for it was none other than Xianyi himself. Xianyi was very respectful toward Grand Secretary Fong, who was his maternal grandfather. Right now, Grand Secretary Fong wasn't paying attention to Xianyi. He was staring at Priest Wu. Priest Wu, on the other hand, was completely absorbed in that whistling vase. He listened to it attentively and there was a serene look on his face. A while passed before Priest Wu slowly opened his eyes, which were limpid and sagacious. "What a mind-calming formation. It reminds me of a warm spring day and makes me feel as if I'm strolling in a sea of flowers with the spring breeze brushing past my cheeks. It can cast all anger away and calm one's mind. This is definitely a master-level formation, and maybe even more advanced than that." More importantly, this mind-calming formation was perfect for Priest Wu, who was irascible and prone to agitation. Priest Wu had always been a step away from the supreme level because of his short temper. "Grand Secretary Fong, is it possible for you to part with this treasure?" Priest Wu asked. Master Bian blanched at those words. He had broken into a cold sweat as soon as he recognized the sagacious old man, and a chilly sensation ran down his spine when he heard how highly his master spoke of this whistling vase. As expected, Grand Secretary Fong glanced at Priest Wu. "You like it? Brother Fong, you know me too well. I get grumpy so easily. If I have this whistling vase with the mind-calming formation in it, I might be able to rise to the supreme level." Despite his superior status, Priest Wu was still a junior to Grand Secretary Fong. He cupped his fists and smiled bitterly. "Brother Fong, I apologize for offending you in the past. Please forgive me and sell me this whistling vase." Grand Secretary Fong smiled cryptically, but said nothing in reply. "Brother Fong, how about this? You know my collection very well. May I trade one of my pieces for this vase?" The formation in this vase wasn't exactly advanced, but the design was so intricate and sophisticated that it was worth studying. Moreover, it met Priest Wu's needs. And that wasn't something that could be measured with money alone. Grand Secretary Fong darted a glance at Master Bien, then casually said, "This whistling vase should have been yours." "What?" Priest Wu was pleasantly surprised. "Mine? How so? Why don't I know about it?" Master Bien couldn't stop sweating. Chapter 505 Forgive me, Master. Chapter 505. Forgive me, Master. Priest Wu found it unbelievable. That was impossible. This was his first time seeing this whistling vase. There was no way that he would have let other people have it if he had seen it first. Grand Secretary Fong didn't say anything, but only gave Master Bien a sidelong glance. Master Bien's mind went blank. Priest Wu also shifted his gaze to Master Bien. Master Bien drained of all color. Actually. Speak. Priest Wu bellowed, his eyes glinting coldly. He was short-tempered to begin with, and this only set him off. What have you been keeping from me? Speak. Well, said Master Bien. Actually, it was a young lady who sold off this whistling vase. And you were there? Priest Wu's face darkened a little. Yes, Master Bien nodded gingerly. You idiot. Priest Wu smacked Master Bien on the back of his head. Why didn't you buy the vase yourself? That was it. Grand Secretary Fong bought it before you could, right? More cold sweat trickled down Master Bien's forehead. Actually, Master Bien was almost in tears, but he had no choice but to tell the truth, for Grand Secretary Fong was right here. Word on the street was that Priest Wu had once set up Grand Secretary Fong, and the latter was probably doing this on purpose. Master, how about we talk about it after we get back? Master Bien suggested. However, Priest Wu smacked him on his head again. We're not going anywhere. Tell me what happened now. Priest Wu was known for his short temper. Master Bien couldn't stall any longer and said disconsolately, the young lady sold that vase to me at first. What? Priest Wu almost jumped to his feet. He stared at Master Bien. What happened? Tell me everything. What do you mean she sold it to you at first? Despite his reluctance, Master Bien had no choice but to tell Priest Wu everything that had taken place at Elegant Ink Gallery. Priest Wu said, so she was able to recognize a fake piece with one glance and effortlessly set up a formation as advanced as a mind-calming formation. How come I've never heard of such a talented person in the Imperial capital? Seeing that Priest Wu's attention had shifted to the girl, Master Bien said in a hurry, that's right. She was from the Imperial capital and she was so young. That was why I didn't recognize her work. Priest Wu glared at Master Bien. If that girl sold you the vase, why didn't you bring it back to me? Well, Master Bien wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Because Grand Secretary Fong bought it from me. Old Fong, you forced him to sell it to you, didn't you? Priest Wu was very upset. That whistling vase should have been his. That girl with the unmatched talent had specifically said that it was for him. I forced him? Heh, Grand Secretary Fong snorted. There was no need for that. Your pupil here was so ignorant that he willingly sold the vase to me at the original price. Priest Wu was so furious that he wanted to beat Master Bien up. As a matter of fact, that was exactly what he did. Grabbing his walking stick, he struck Master Bien with it repeatedly. You imbecile! You idiot! One day you'll give me a heart attack. This whistling vase should have been mine. That girl asked you to bring it to me. How could you be so dumb? Chapter 506. How could you do that? Chapter 506. How could you do that? Priest Wu was so pissed, and the more he thought about it, the angrier he became. Master Bien ran around the room in circles to dodge the walking stick. Master. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. You imbecile. I'm gonna kill you. Priest Wu was relentless with his strikes. What was worse, Grand Secretary Fong watched everything with a smile on his face. He would rub his chin every now and then. It was clear that he was enjoying this. The corner of Xian Yi's mouth twitched. His grandfather was so. Wasn't he supposed to be a valuable asset of the empire? How could he be this childish? It was said that as one got older, they became more and more like a child. That was so true. His grandfather still held a grudge over some petty conflict that had happened decades ago. For his revenge, General Secretary Fong had invited Priest Wu here to savor this whistling vase today, just so that he could watch the latter beat up his pupil in vexation. It was such a childish thing to do. Xianyi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. On the other side, Priest Wu, who was rather agile for his age, was still running after his pupil with the walking stick. "You idiot! Stop running! Do you have any idea how precious that whistling vase is? Do you know how wonderfully designed that formation is? A formation like that is so hard to come by. You idiot! You sold it just like that. She specifically mentioned my name, but you still sold it. Ah, I'm so pissed." Xianyi watched in resignation. He then said to Grand Secretary Fong, "Grandpa, you're going to get Master Bien killed." Grand Secretary Fong said proudly, "He's a lousy person. He picked on that girl and I'm only taking revenge for her. What's wrong with that?" He could make as many excuses as he wanted, but Xianyi knew that the old man was doing it to get back at Priest Wu for that petty incident years and years ago. Xianyi was speechless. He then turned to General Secretary Fong. "Grandpa, this girl you mentioned, is she really that good?" "Of course. If I hadn't seen her put the whistling vase back together with my own eyes, I would never have believed that a teenage girl could set up such a complicated formation in a split second." Seeing how highly Grand Secretary Fong spoke of the girl, Xianyi was intrigued. "Who is this girl?" Grand Secretary Fong threw a dirty look at Xianyi. "You can't call her a girl just because I address her that way. You know what? She's about the same level as me in terms of her formation skills. That makes her equivalent to your grandaunt." Xianyi almost choked on his tea. Him? Call a teenage girl grandaunt? He didn't know what to say, but that description only made him more curious. "Grandpa, exactly who is she?" He hadn't thought much of it, but after everything his grandfather said, he was very curious now. Grand Secretary Fong was a little vexed at that question. He hadn't expected to find such a profound formation in the vase, and only thought that it was more advanced than other ordinary ones. Hence, he hadn't asked his old steward to follow the girl. Sigh, Grand Secretary Fong heaved a sigh. "I wish I knew who she is. But I have some leads. I'm sure I can find her." At the same time, outside the manor, Feng Wu didn't leave after handing in the answer, and the two girls relaxed in the cool shade of a palm tree. The man in charge of the household affairs of the Fong Manor, Steward Fong, hadn't come back out. Chaoga asked Feng Wu, "Xiao Wu, why hasn't that steward come out? It's been 15 minutes. Grand Secretary Fong should have seen the paper by now." Chapter 507 Chapter 507 Feng Wu nodded. He should have if everything went as planned, but judging by Steward Fong's attitude, I don't think he's shown it to his master yet. He said he was going to do it. How could he? Chaoga abhorred injustice like a deadly foe, and she bolted to her feet right away. "I won't have it. I need to give him a reminder." Chaoga rushed to the guest hall to see Steward Fong standing in the shade with his head lowered and his hands at his sides. And that piece of paper had been crumpled into a ball and tossed on the ground. Chaoga was furious. "Steward Fong, how could you?" Chaoga cried out. She shouted at the top of her lungs and her voice resounded in the yard. Steward Fong had been dozing and he almost jumped at that voice. He blanched right away. Oh God, why was this girl still here? She would definitely disturb the respected guest inside. Steward Fong was so angry that he almost slapped Chaoga. "You want to hit me? How dare you?" Chaoga flared up and she pointed at Steward Fong. "You vile man. Didn't you say you were going to hand the answer to your master? And what did you do? You tossed it on the ground. You threw Xiao Wu's effort away like a piece of garbage. Why did you do that?" Chaoga went scarlet with rage. Steward Fong rushed to her side and covered her mouth. "My dear young lady, I'm sorry, okay? It's all my fault. Please be quiet. My master is right there in the room." Those words set Chaoga off completely. The dauntless girl pushed Steward Fong away, put her hands on either side of her mouth like a loudspeaker, and yelled, "Grand Secretary Fong! Grand Secretary Fong! Grand Secretary Fong. Help! The house is on fire. Feng Wu, who had just arrived, was rendered speechless. Steward Fong was so exasperated that he almost broke into tears. They were right outside the drawing room and a wall away from Grand Secretary Fong. The wall wasn't exactly soundproof. Grand Secretary Fong heard everything Chowga said. He frowned. As an elderly official of the empire, the old man preferred gentle and quiet personalities. The noisy ones were his least favorite. Grand Secretary Fong darted a look at Xian Yi and the latter took the hint right away. Grandpa, I'll get rid of them. All right. Grand Secretary Fong nodded, still frowning. Xian Yi rose to his feet and quickly went outside. Chowga was still yelling at the drawing room. Grand Secretary Fong. Grand Secretary Fong. Xiao Wu is an awesome girl. Please see her answer to the question. He pushed the door open when Chowga was still yelling and he almost bumped into the girl. Wow, Chowga stumbled back and stared at Xian Yi. This guy looks so familiar. Where had she seen him before? Before Chowga could say another word, Xian Yi frowned and glanced at Steward Fong. That look sent chills down Steward Fong's spine. See them out. Seeing that Chowga wasn't anyone he knew, Xian Yi gave Steward Fong the order. That was the nature of Jun Linyuan and his friends. They were relentless toward those they deemed outsiders. They had no patience for those they found uninteresting and would get rid of those people immediately. However, Chowga cried out in surprise. Hey, I know you. What's your name again? Xian Yi, isn't it? Xian Yi darted a look at Chowga. Because of his connection to Jun Linyuan, Xian Yi was a well-known figure in the Imperial capital as well. Many knew him and he found it natural that this girl would know who he was, so Xian Yi didn't think much of it. Chapter 508 Very solid. Chapter 508, Very solid. However, Chowga turned around and beckoned at Feng Wu. Xiao Wu, come over here. Isn't he Xian the second? The boy that you used to beat up? He cried a lot. Isn't this him? Xiao Wu. Xian Yi's stomach lurched. Xian Yi? Feng Wu walked into the yard at that moment. Their eyes met. You. Why are you here? Xian Yi and Feng Wu exchanged looks and both saw surprise on each other's faces. Chowga grinned. Xiao Wu, that's him, right? That crybaby that you used to beat up? The one that would wait for you outside your house every day after that? Feng Wu chuckled. Xian Yi blushed suspiciously. He coughed into his fist. Just then, Master Bian couldn't take Priest Wu's blows anymore and rushed out, burying his head in his hands and crying for his master's mercy. He missed the threshold and tripped. Hence, thump. Master Bian fell down on his face. Why were there so many people? He looked up, and he saw a face that would give him nightmares. As a matter of face, it was a face of stunning beauty. You. Master Bian acted as if he had seen a ghost. His eyes opened so wide it was as if his eyeballs would fall out at any moment. However, he reacted quickly and rushed toward Feng Wu the next second. It's you. It's you. Both Feng Wu and Chowga jumped at his reaction and stumbled back involuntarily. Chowga shielded Feng Wu with her own body. What the hell? Don't go. Seeing them back off, especially Feng Wu, Master Bian ran after them in exasperation. You can't leave now. I won't let you. Stop right there. Chowga flared up. How dare a middle-aged loser try to lay his hands on Xiao Wu? He had to be delusional. Hence, Chowga grabbed the nearest flower pot. It was filled with soil and very solid. Bang! Chowga swung the pot and smashed it onto Master Bian's head. Crack! The pot shattered to pieces and the soil scattered all over the ground. Arg! Master Bian cried out and blood gushed from his forehead. Chowga didn't see that coming. She said hesitantly, You were imprudent first. I did the right thing. You can't blame me. Master Bian. Imprudent? He wasn't trying to take advantage of Miss Feng. Everything happened so fast and everyone was taken by surprise. Seeing Master Bian's bloody forehead and Chowga's unforgiving attitude, Steward Fong was furious. Young lady, who do you think you are? Do you know who this is? Master Bian is a respected guest here. Take her, Fearing that he would be blamed for this, Steward Fong summoned some guards and was going to grab Chowga. His master would deal with her later. But wait, Xianyi frowned. Priest Wu was infuriated. Although he had been hitting Master Bian for the past few minutes, he only did it because the latter was his pupil. He could do whatever he wanted with his own pupil. But it was a different story when other people hurt his pupil. Hence, Priest Wu glared at Chowga and Feng Wu with a livid face. Which one of you did this? Priest Wu bellowed. Confess now. Chapter 509. Who on earth is this girl? Chapter 509. Who on earth is this girl? Intimidated by Priest Wu's tone, Chowga cringed. Feng Wu stepped out with a smile. I did it. Priest Wu stared at Feng Wu and found her very familiar. He had seen that face before. Then it came to him. He had seen her before entering the Fong Manor. The girl had a Grandmaster-level formation on her bracelet, and Priest Wu had called her a vain girl. He hadn't expected to meet her again so soon. Master Bian rushed to his side and said to Priest Wu, Master, please don't blame her. It's her. Priest Wu nodded. It's you. Priest Wu had deemed Feng Wu an extravagant girl and he smirked. You're already this vain at such a young age. Shame on your family. Xianyi frowned. He didn't like Priest Wu criticizing Feng Wu like that. However, before Xianyi could intervene, Master Bian tugged at Priest Wu's sleeve and yelled, Master. It's her. The whistling vase girl. What? Priest Wu turned around and looked at Master Bian in confusion. I'm telling the truth, Master. This young lady made that whistling vase. I saw it with my own eyes. Priest Wu's eyes widened. He stared at Master Bian, then shifted his gaze to Feng Wu. It couldn't be. That was impossible. But she's so young, she was in her teens, right? 13 tops. Just then, footsteps came from inside. Grand Secretary Fong had come out. All the "it's her" talk intrigued Grand Secretary Fong greatly, so he came out to have a look. Why, young lady, it's you. Priest Wu turned to stare at Grand Secretary Fong. You know her too. Grand Secretary Fong snapped, of course I do. Back in Elegant Ink Gallery, this girl broke that whistling vase herself at first, then put it back together before breaking it again and sticking it together a second time. She also put in that mind-calming formation while she was at it. So many people saw it. I can't lie about that. Both Master Bian and Grand Secretary Fong were saying the same thing. Priest Wu had no choice but to believe them. He then turned to stare at the bracelet on Feng Wu's wrist, which had a formation embedded in it. He had reprimanded the girl for being vain because of that invaluable formation on her wrist. He believed that such a rare treasure should be put in a shrine and worshipped. However, if this girl really was the maker of the whistling vase, that was very embarrassing for him. Xianyi looked at Grand Secretary Fong and Feng Wu in turn and narrowed his eyes. Grandpa, is she? The girl you were talking about? Grand Secretary Fong nodded. That's right. She's the one. She's unbelievably talented in formations. Xianyi's mouth fell open. To most people, Feng Wu was a crippled good-for-nothing, but according to his grandfather, Feng Wu was incredible. It sounds like you two know each other as well. Grand Secretary Fong found the coincidence interesting. We do. Xianyi nodded. Not only did they know each other, they had come back to the Imperial capital from northern border city together. Which family is she from? Grand Secretary Fong asked curiously. Xianyi gave him a wry smile and pointed at the house next door. Grand Secretary Fong looked at him in confusion. Xianyi said, she lives right next door. The Fong clan. Grand Secretary Fong looked surprised. I didn't know they had such a talented daughter. That clan is so blessed. Priest Wu had been listening to their conversation, and he interrupted them. Chapter 5:10 Be My Pupil. Chapter 5:10 Be My Pupil. He rushed up to them. The Fong Manor? Wait, where have I heard that name before? That clan had an unmatched genius years ago, didn't they? I think her name was Feng Wu. Grand Secretary Fong nodded and said with regret, If that girl hadn't been crippled, she would have been accomplished by now, and the Feng clan would have risen with her. What a pity. Priest Wu sighed with emotion. I didn't expect to see such a talented member of the Feng clan again after Feng Wu. They must be so blessed by their ancestors. Grand Secretary Feng chimed in. I have to agree with you on that. Grandpa, Old Master Wu. Xianyi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This girl is the Feng Wu you're talking about. What? Grand Secretary Feng and Priest Wu cried out in surprise and both turned to look at Feng Wu. Both elderly men moved in unison and even their astonished faces looked identical. Feng Wu? That crippled girl? I thought she was dead. That's right. I was told she passed away as well. Xianyi said awkwardly. Grandpa, Old Master Wu, she's standing right there. Stop calling her a dead person. Look at her livid face. Grand Secretary Feng said in amazement. Why, she really is that girl? Wow. Priest Wu's eyes widened. If she's really Feng Wu, she's only like 14 now. No, 13. She's 13. Grand Secretary Feng corrected him immediately. 13 years old. Grand Secretary Feng and Priest Wu exchanged looks and both saw resignation in each other's eyes. What did they do when they were 13? They probably didn't know the first thing about formations. As for the girl here, her formatin skills were already so solid at the age of 13. Imagine what she would become one day. Priest Wu hurried to Feng Wu's side in one stride. Kiddo, would you like to be my pupil? Feng Wu frowned. Grand Secretary Feng was glad to see her reaction. Excuse me? You're in my home now. Are you trying to steal my pupil away? He then ran up to her and pushed Priest Wu aside. Kiddo, pick me. I'll be your master. Priest Wu nearly fell down. He ran back to Feng Wu in a hurry, pushed Grand Secretary Feng away, and tugged at Feng Wu's sleeve. Kiddo, pick me. I'm the head of the formation department at Imperial College. I can make you a student of the department with a snap of my fingers. Grand Secretary Feng threw a dirty look at him. What's your problem? She's already more capable than any of your graduates. She doesn't need your lousy department. After mocking Priest Wu, Grand Secretary Feng turned to Feng Wu with the brightest smile. Miss Wu, I'm Grand Secretary Feng, and even the Emperor needs to address me as his teacher. Isn't that wonderful? Be my pupil and I'll get you all the best resources. By the way, you know him, right? Grand Secretary Feng was doing all he could to get this pupil. He dragged Xianyi over and presented the latter to Feng Wu. Priest Wu was all the more vexed. For Grand Secretary Feng had a very appealing-looking grandson, while he only had an unsightly pupil. However, while everyone thought that Grand Secretary Feng was trying to set up Xianyi and Feng Wu together, the whimsical old man said, Look, this guy is His Royal Highness's buddy. Don't all girls want to get close to His Royal Highness? Chapter 511. Who on earth is this girl? Chapter 511. Who on earth is this girl? The look on Feng Wu's face changed at Grand Secretary Feng's words. However, Grand Secretary Feng was too occupied to notice it. He enjoined Xianyi, shall we take Xiao Wu to see His Royal Highness when you have the time? Okay. Grand Secretary Feng was very pleased with himself. He was sure that any girl would jump at the opportunity to meet the Crown Prince. However, Feng Wu turned him down right away. Jun Linyuan? I don't want to see him. Jun Linyuan. The girl had just called the Crown Prince by his name. That was bold. But Grand Secretary Feng didn't believe a word Feng Wu said. The only girls that didn't like Jun Linyuan were the ones who weren't born yet. Priest Wu gave Feng Wu a pleading look. Kiddo, are you really not going to consider me? Xianyi was baffled. Grandmaster Wu, a valuable asset of the Empire and someone that even the Empire treated with great respect, looked so pitiful now that it seemed as if he was going to tug Feng Wu's sleeve and beg for her permission at any moment. The corner of Master Bian's mouth twitched. His master was so renowned that people lined up outside his door all the way to the city gates for a chance to become his pupil. Priest Wu couldn't be bothered to even spare them a glance. Master Bian never imagined that his master would one day look so piteous in front of a girl. However, instead of dropping to her knees and thanking Priest Wu for his consideration, Feng Wu only glanced at him. You want to be my master? Is there a problem? What can you possibly teach me? What do you want to learn? Priest Wu patted his chest and asked proudly. What do you have to offer? Formations. Priest Wu gloated. I'm the head of the formation department of Imperial College. So, can you create a supreme level formation as we speak? Feng Wu looked at him. Are you kidding me? Priest Wu almost jumped on the spot. No one can do that. All formations need to be carefully designed and set out with great care. You've got to be kidding me. However, Feng Wu only took that whistling vase from Grand Secretary Feng, concentrated, and started working on the formation. Priest Wu and Grand Secretary Feng stared at Feng Wu in amazement. Feng Wu's fingers flew over the vase as they emitted streaks of white light which flew into the whistling vase. She then handed the vase to Priest Wu. Priest Wu stared at Feng Wu in confusion. Feng Wu smiled. Check it out. Priest Wu examined the vase suspiciously, but Grand Secretary Feng, who wasn't holding the vase, looked convinced. Back in Elegant Ink Gallery previously, Feng Wu had done the same thing with her fingers and sent white light into the vase. After that, the formation was completed. The corner of Priest Wu's mouth twitched as he examined the vase, and he stiffened. Grand Secretary Feng nudged him. Hey, wake up. What do you see? Priest Wu turned to look at Grand Secretary Feng in amazement, then shifted his gaze to Feng Wu. His lips moved. With much difficulty he said, You. Grand Secretary Feng was so intrigued that he snatched the vase from Priest Wu, then examined it closely. He raised his head abruptly and stared at Feng Wu. You. Grand Secretary Feng took a deep breath. Who on earth are you? Grand Secretary Feng thought that he had encountered enough people in his lifetime to be able to judge them correctly. However, Xianyi watched on the side blankly. Wasn't Feng Wu supposed to be a good-for-nothing? Why did his grandfather and old Master Wu look like they had seen a ghost? Chapter 512 Xianyi is baffled. Chapter 512 Xianyi is baffled. While Xianyi was feeling baffled, Grand Secretary Feng and Priest Wu stared at Feng Wu as if they had seen a ghost. That was incredible. This girl was incredible. Priest Wu was a Grandmaster-level formation master and could create formations himself, but they required calculations and in-depth study. But, just then, Feng Wu was able to upgrade an intricate master-level formation to the Grandmaster level in a matter of minutes. How could one not be dumbstruck by such excellent skills? Do you still want to teach me formations? Feng Wu smiled at Priest Wu. Priest Wu gave Feng Wu a woeful look. Kiddo, are you kidding me? Forget about becoming my pupil. I want to be your pupil now. Xianyi's eyes widened and he stared at Feng Wu and Priest Wu in disbelief. Wasn't Feng Wu useless? Were her formations really that good? Feng Wu didn't notice the look on Xianyi's face. She only said proudly, I have a master already and he's the best in this land. I'm not going to be anyone else's pupil. Crossing her hands behind her back, the girl stuck out her chest proudly and looked so sure of herself that everyone else wanted to smack their own foreheads. Priest Wu and Grand Secretary Feng exchanged looks, then sighed in unison. She was right. With her skills, what other masters did she need? Although Feng Wu smiled a little. I can only have one master, but if we're talking tutors, I can have as many as I want. So would you like that? Tutors. Grand Secretary Feng and Priest Wu wouldn't have given the offer a second thought if it had come from anyone else. However, only an idiot wouldn't want a pupil like her. But what can we teach you? The two old men thought about it and felt guilty. Priest Wu waved his hand. Forget about the tutor thing. You can be my master. And he wasn't joking. Grand Secretary Feng actually nodded in agreement. And Grand Secretary Feng was such a proud man. Xianyi, Master Bian, and Chaoga watched with open mouths. Especially Chaoga. It was only just now at Feng Wu's place that they had been trying to figure out a way to talk to Priest Wu, who would in turn lead them to Grand Secretary Feng. As it turned out, both old men wanted to become Feng Wu's pupils. Exactly how advanced were Feng Wu's formation skills? Feng Wu waved her hand with a smile. Please don't. You'll shame me to death like this. Well, how about we forget about masters and pupils and treat one another as peers? Grand Secretary Fong settled it. Priest Wu nodded. That's right. Your formation skills are more than enough for you to work as a guest advisor in the formation department. We're indeed peers in that sense. Xianyi was dumbfounded. Feng Wu and the two old men were peers now? But what about him? Seeing the conflicted look on Xianyi's face, Grand Secretary Fong smacked his grandson on the back of his head. You brat! What are you looking at? Give your greetings. What? Even someone as prim as Xianyi was bewildered. Grand Secretary Fong snapped, you heard me. Didn't we agree that Xiao Wu is our peer now? I'm your grandfather and that makes her your grandaunt. Quickly say hi to your grandaunt. Chapter 513. I'm applying to the martial arts department. Chapter 513. I'm applying to the martial arts department. Grand Secretary Fong and Priest Wu had acknowledged Feng Wu's abilities. Hence, they decided to treat her as their equal. Once she was acknowledged by the professionals, they instantly became much more approachable. Xianyi was flustered by Grand Secretary Fong's prompting. Grandaunt? He was never going to call Feng Wu that. Grandpa, the corner of Xianyi's mouth twitched a little. Only a couple of months earlier in northern border city, he had felt so superior over Feng Wu. But now, he was told to call her grandaunt. Feng Wu gave Xianyi a half-smile. Xianyi had always been a serious and prim guy, and she found it so amusing to see him like this. By the way, Xiao Wu, why are you here? General Secretary Fong led Feng Wu inside in an affable manner, and completely forgot about Xianyi. Rubbing his nose, Xianyi followed the old man in silence. Feng Wu said, I heard that you're the honorary president of Imperial College. Grand Secretary Fong waved his hand. It's just a nominal thing, and I'm a deputy president. I'm the real head of the formation department. Xiao Wu, feel free to ask me anything. Priest Wu interjected in a hurry. Feng Wu smiled. I'm talking to the right people then. I want to apply for Imperial College this year. What? Everyone was astonished. Grand Secretary Fong was shocked. Are you kidding me? Imperial College? Why do you even need to study in Imperial College? Priest Wu said, with what you can do with formations, Imperial College is way below your level. I can make you a guest advisor directly. Feng Wu shook her head. Priest Wu stared at Feng Wu looking alarmed. Hey kiddo, you're pushing it. I can make you a deputy president of the formation department at most. You can't have the president position. It's mine. Grand Secretary Fong glared at Priest Wu. Why can't she have it? I'm entitled to a vote. If it were up to me, I'd choose Xiao Wu over you any time. Old Fong, you're asking for a fight. Bring it on. Oh. The two elders looked way too old for a squabble like this, and the others watched in bafflement. It seemed though that this was how they usually interacted. However, Chaoga was still in shock. A guest advisor? The deputy president. She and Xiao Wu were only here to get to know these people so that they could borrow some past exam papers. Feng Wu looked at the two old men in resignation. I'm applying for the martial arts department. What? The quarreling pair stopped abruptly and turned their heads in unison. Feng Wu said earnestly, I want to get into the martial arts department. But you don't have any spiritual essence, do you? Xianyi frowned at Feng Wu. How are you going to take the exam for the martial arts department? The martial arts department was the main department at Imperial College, while the departments of formation, medicine, and some others were minor ones. Although the formation and medicine departments were minor ones with fewer students, they weren't that much inferior in status. This was because there were many more practitioners of the martial arts, whereas awakening talent in formations or medicine was much more difficult than in martial arts. Less than 1 in 1,000 students had such talent, which made them much more precious. Grand Secretary Fong and Priest Wu gazed at Feng Wu as well. They had long realized that Feng Wu had no spiritual essence. Moreover, with what had happened back then, she was indeed a good-for-nothing when it came to cultivation. However, she was brilliant nonetheless. After her main path was cut off, she had somehow managed to blaze a trail of her own. But now, when she had almost reached the pinnacle after that trial, She was telling them that she was going back to that blocked main road? Chapter 514 Registration closed. Chapter 514 Registration closed. But why? Crossing his hands behind his back, Grand Secretary Fong looked at Feng Wu in bewilderment. Priest Wu also frowned. Kiddo, of course you may pass the written exam, but without any cultivation ability, how are you going to deal with the physical tryout? Must one have spiritual essence to pass the physical tryout? Feng Wu said lightly. How are you going to fight the others if you don't have it? Everyone was shocked by her reaction. I can still defeat them with or without spiritual essence, Feng Wu said proudly. No, you can't. You need to be a level 9 spiritual master to apply to Imperial College, but you... Priest Wu shook his head. You aren't even a level 1 spiritual master. How are you even going to register? Without registering, she wouldn't qualify to take the exam. Both Priest Wu and Grand Secretary Fong smiled wryly and thought that the girl was dreaming. However, Feng Wu put her hands behind her back and grinned. If I remember correctly, Imperial College has a board of elders. If I have recommendations from 3 board members, they can make an exception and let me register for the exam. There is indeed such a rule, but it hasn't been used in years. Priest Wu gave her a wry smile. That's because any normal person would only try to take the exam after they become a level 9 spiritual master, or even after becoming a spiritual grandmaster. Otherwise, they're sure to fail the physical tryout. As for Feng Wu, she wasn't even a level 1 spiritual master, let alone at level 7 or 8. How was she going to make it? Both Grand Secretary Fong and Priest Wu looked at Feng Wu in resignation. Feng Wu looked back at them. Are you not going to give me recommendations? The last thing Grand Secretary Fong and Priest Wu wanted was to upset the girl. Especially Priest Wu, who said in a hurry, of course we can do that. It's just a letter. A piece of cake. Hearing Priest Wu make his promise, Grand Secretary Fong snapped. Between the both of us, she can only get 2 letters. She needs 1 more if she wants to get that exemption. It wouldn't be difficult to find an elder to recommend a level 9 or even level 8 cultivator. However, Feng Wu was a useless girl with no spiritual essence. The more they thought about it, the more inconceivable they found the idea. Priest Wu scratched his head. Well, that is indeed a problem. I know where to get that 3rd recommendation letter. Feng Wu smiled. Where? Priest Wu was amazed. Don't tell me you know someone from the Education Commission. Feng Wu said casually, I know one of the members. Priest Wu was baffled. Will he lie for you and write that recommendation letter? Feng Wu said he will. On second thought, Priest Wu realized that the girl was a Grandmaster level formation master, and he and Old Fong were already convinced. It wasn't unimaginable that she would be able to convince yet another person. Right. What is the registration deadline for Imperial College again? Priest Wu asked all of a sudden. No one answered him for a while. Everyone had been focused on the fact that the exam started in 7 days, but no one remembered when the registration deadline was. Master Bien, who had bruises all over his face, raised his hand gingerly. Everyone turned to look at him. Master Bien darted a glance at Feng Wu, then said quietly, the registration for Imperial College has already closed. What? The others stared at Master Bien in shock. Master Bien nodded tentatively. Master, Xiaoxi is taking the exam this year as well, and I heard her talking about it the other day. Registration closed at noon today. Feng Wu frowned. It was already past noon. Even if she rushed to Imperial College at that moment, it was already too late. Chapter 515 Stop right there. Chapter 515. Stop right there. It was closed already. Feng Wu frowned. Priest Wu and Grand Secretary Fong exchanged looks. What do we do now? Chaoga was exasperated. Xiao Wu, registration has closed. What are you going to do now? Feng Wu had announced that she was applying for Imperial College, but she had just lost the chance. That was so embarrassing. Feng Wu was also worried. She wouldn't be able to obtain that broken star piece if she didn't get into Imperial College. And without the piece, Her beautiful master would never wake up. Therefore, she had to enroll this year, even if it meant that she had to use special means to get in. Hence, Feng Wu kept her gaze on Grand Secretary Feng. You must have a way for me to register. Am I right? Grand Secretary Feng thought for a moment, frowned, and looked at Priest Wu. I think we can try to talk about it with Mr. Liu. Mr. Liu was the principal of Imperial College. What are we waiting for? Let's go. Priest Wu and Grand Secretary Feng decided to go to Mr. Liu. Feng Wu said, I'm coming with you. Grand Secretary Feng shook his head. Kiddo, take it easy. Maybe we can still work something out. Go back home and wait for our news. After that, Grand Secretary Feng and Priest Wu left together. Meanwhile, Master Bian gave Feng Wu an indecipherable look. After everything the girl had put him through, it was finally her turn. Ha 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 ha. However, Master Bian was only bold enough to laugh inwardly as he trembled all over from suppressing his laughter. He then turned to leave so that Feng Wu wouldn't notice his glee. Actually, you can go to Boss June, Xianyi reminded Feng Wu when he walked past her. He left before Feng Wu could reply. Boss June. Feng Wu had yet to respond when Chaoga asked the question bewilderedly. Was Xianyi referring to June Linyuan? Feng Wu nodded. Yup. Really? Chaoga frowned, rested her hands on her waist and flared up. What's wrong with that, Xianyi? Ask the Crown Prince for help? That guy detests you. Helping you is the last thing he'll ever do. He would have helped you back then if he wanted to. But what did he do? He cancelled the engagement and let them banish you to northern border city. The more Chaoga thought about it, the angrier she became. She stomped her foot and yelled after Xianyi. You! Stop right there! Xianyi stopped. Chaoga rushed to his side and shouted furiously, Why did you say that? Huh? Xianyi frowned at Chaoga. Chaoga jabbed his chest with a finger. You know perfectly well how much the Crown Prince dislikes Xiao Wu, and you still told her to go to that guy. She's just asking to be humiliated if she did that. Why are you so mean? Xianyi's eyes flickered and his face turned grim. Why are you trying to set Xiao Wu up? How can anyone be this vile? Chaoga was so pissed. Xianyi had to take a deep breath and stop himself from losing his temper. He then cast a stern look at Feng Wu. Feng Wu pulled Chaoga away. Forget about it. You can't beat him. Chaoga was rendered speechless. Xianyi frowned. Boss Jun treated no one else like he did Feng Wu. But why did everyone think that Boss Jun was so mean to her? And it seemed that even Feng Wu herself thought that way. If he didn't do anything about that misunderstanding. At that thought, Xianyi turned to leave. Hey! You! Stop right there! Chaoga shouted after Xianyi, but Xianyi ignored her. Before long, he arrived at the Crown Prince's residence. Chapter 516 June Linyuan the Proud. Chapter 516 June Linyuan the Proud. Xianyi entered the residence and found June Linyuan in the martial arts hall. At the moment, the Crown Prince had just finished practice and was sipping tea by the pond. Seeing Xianyi, June Linyuan raised an eyebrow and gestured at the other boy to take a seat. I met Feng Wu today. Xianyi got straight to the point. The casual look on June Linyuan's face faded a little, but he quickly covered it up. Did you? As if he couldn't care less. Xianyi still hadn't figured out how June Linyuan really felt about Feng Wu. And he thought that he could use this chance to carefully observe the Crown Prince. After all, Boss Jun's attitude toward Feng Wu determined how the others should treat her in the future. That's right. I met her at my grandfather's place. Xianyi glanced at June Linyuan unhurriedly. The Crown Prince took a sip of his tea, nodded, then frowned. Why did Xianyi stop? Xianyi smiled a little and pretended to mention in passing, I was really surprised when I saw her. I didn't know she's such an amazing formation master. Keeping his face straight, June Linyuan snorted. Priest Wu and Master Bian were both there, but Master Bian almost cried after what Feng Wu put him through. Ha 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 ha. Of course. His Xiao Wu was the best. The Crown Prince played with his porcelain teacup and secretly rejoiced. However, he only snorted again. Seeing June Linyuan's expressionless face, Xianyi changed the subject. By the way, I haven't seen Feng Sun in a while. I wonder how's he doing? Jun Linyuan looked displeased. From Feng Sun, Xianyi moved on to cultivation, then to the current situation in the empire, then to the philosophy of life. He noticed Jun Linyuan's face darken and look very impatient. What more did Xianyi need to know? The crown prince was in love with Feng Wu. The only problem was that he didn't seem to realize it himself. Agitated, Jun Linyuan was on the verge of kicking over his table when Xianyi changed the subject back in time. My grandfather invited Old Man Wu over to appraise this whistling vase, and Old Man Wu couldn't stop saying good things about it. Master Bian's face practically turned green. Xiao Wu happened to be outside. Xianyi then told Jun Linyuan about everything that happened in the Feng Manor. A tiny smile emerged on Jun Linyuan's face as he listened. Xianyi had his own agenda, and he had been looking closely at Jun Linyuan's facial expressions the entire time. By now, everything was so obvious. When Priest Wu found out that it was Xiao Wu who made that whistling vase, he wouldn't believe it. Do you know what happened after that? Jun Linyuan said arrogantly, how am I supposed to know? Just tell me. Xiao Wu said. Xiao Wu then used just a bit of time to upgrade that master-level formation to a grandmaster level 1. That shut them up right away and they were so shocked. It was incredible. The crown prince snorted proudly. Of course that girl was the best. Any woman Jun Linyuan liked had to be the best. Xianyi was rendered speechless by the proud look on Boss Jun's face. However, he didn't let his surprise show and only went on talking. It turns out that Xiao Wu wants to apply for Imperial College. Jun Linyuan was very pleased. So, the girl was following his order. But, Xianyi paused and frowned. Registration for the entrance exam to Imperial College already closed at noon today. Chapter 517 Imperial College. Chapter 517 Imperial College. Jun Linyuan frowned. Xianyi said, those two elderly men like Xiao Wu so much that they've gone to Imperial College, saying that they were going to talk to Mr. Lu, the head. Xianyi then darted a look at Jun Linyuan. The crown prince didn't reply. Xianyi then said in a casual tone, Mr. Lu isn't someone who is easily persuaded. So, I don't think Xiao Wu can make it this time. Staring at Xianyi, Jun Linyuan said with a darkened face, Xiao Wu? Are you that familiar with her? He then rose to his feet. Xianyi was speechless. Was he seriously going to get angry over such a petty matter? Xianyi stood up in a hurry. No, I'm not familiar with her at all. I only call her that because Feng Sun does. Ha ha ha. Poor Feng Sun. That came out of nowhere. Jun Linyuan snorted. Xianyi went on, I don't think Mr. Lu will agree. So Feng Wu won't be able to take the exam this year, I think. Crossing his hands behind his back, Jun Linyuan stared at Xianyi in a haughty manner. Do you have nothing better to do? Why are you talking about her all the time? I don't want to listen to it anymore. Xianyi took a deep breath. His Royal Highness was really. He then glanced at Feng, who returned his glance with a look of resignation. Xianyi's mouth fell open. After Xianyi left in resignation, Jun Linyuan remained by the pond. Watching the koi fish swim about in the pond, Jun Linyuan opened his right palm and his fair, slender fingers glistened in the sunlight. For the first time in his life, Feng didn't react in time. He looked at the crown prince in bewilderment as his racked his brain. Jun Linyuan frowned. Only then did Feng realize what his master wanted. He then handed the latter a bag of fish food. Meanwhile, he was having a hard time believing it. After all these years after the pond was built, this was the first time the crown prince had bothered to feed the fish. Jun Linyuan smiled as he sprinkled the fish food in the water. He then said something to Feng. The corner of Feng's mouth twitched. It was as if the crown prince couldn't let a day pass without upsetting Miss Feng Wu at least once. At the same time, Grand Secretary Feng and Priest Wu still weren't back from Imperial College. In the Feng Manor. Xiao Wu, do you think Grand Secretary Feng will succeed? Feng Wu waited patiently, but Chaoga couldn't stop walking around the room. Mr. Lu will agree to Grand Secretary Feng's request, won't he? And there's Priest Wu too. Feng Wu had no idea what was going to happen. Somehow she had a bad feeling about it. She couldn't sit still anymore. Come, let's go to Imperial College to have a look ourselves. All right, Chowga agreed without hesitation. Imperial College was in the northern suburbs of the imperial capital. It was an unbelievably vast building complex. The college alone took up a quarter of the imperial capital. The magnificent building was covered in a dense layer of spiritual essence, and one felt like sitting down to cultivate as soon as they approached the building. This is a perfect place for cultivation. Chowga was pleasantly surprised. Xiao Wu, I think I'm ready to break through again. Imperial College was indeed as incredible as it was said to be. Even the air was filled with spiritual energy and something ancient, which could calm one's mind without knowing it. Wait. Feng Wu narrowed her eyes. She had a vague feeling of being drawn to a secret power inside the college, which seemed to make her blood boil in excitement. How strange. Exactly what was that power? Something then stirred inside Feng Wu. Like Chowga, Feng Wu felt like she could break through as well. Feng Wu made up her mind that she had to get into Imperial College, even if it was just for that mysterious power alone. Imperial College had an open day every week, and today just happened to be one of those days. While Feng Wu and Chowga were. Chapter 518 Confrontation. Chapter 518 Confrontation. As Feng Wu and Chowga walked into Imperial College, the effect of that dense spiritual essence grew more obvious. I could totally sit down right now and make a breakthrough, Chowga said in excitement. So, they had to get into this Imperial College. It would do wonders for their cultivation. What? Just then a cold voice rang out. Feng Wu, what are you doing here in Imperial College? It was an angry, hostile voice. Turning around, Feng Wu saw Feng Sang, who was glaring at her with a grim face. Feng Sang. Of course Feng Wu recognized her cousin right away. Feng Sang had two friends with her and both eyed Feng Wu curiously. Feng Wu turned around, and the look in Feng Sang's eyes grew more ferocious. Imperial College isn't a place you can just enter casually. I don't have time for this. Get out. Now. She sounded extremely impatient and malicious. Feng Wu almost rolled her eyes. The two girls with Feng Sang asked her in a whisper, who's she? Is there bad blood between the both of you? One of them said, Sang, you're never this irritable. Who is she? What has she done? The two girls were Guanjing and Tao Yu. Feng Sang said in a cold, contemptuous voice, who else? My incredible fifth sister, of course. Fifth sister? As in Feng Wu. Both Guanjing and Tao Yu were from the imperial capital and knew all about the girl prodigy in Feng Sang's family. I see. Guanjing looked enlightened. So that's her. That cripple Feng Wu. Tao Yu gloated. Didn't His Royal Highness cancel his engagement to her? Feng Sang's face was livid and she glowered at Feng Wu. You're a shame to our family. How dare you show up here? Get the hell out. Feng Wu had yet to reply, but Chowga wouldn't have it. To Chowga, Feng Wu was the cleverest and the most incredible person in the world. Even Jun Linyuan couldn't match her in talent. Hey! Resting her hands on her waist, Chowga glared at Feng Sang. Who the hell are you? Don't flatter yourself. We're not here for you. Not everything in this world is about you. Feng Sang had always been a proud person and she was furious at that comment. And who might you be? Feng Sang snapped. I'm Duan Chowga. Remember that name. Chowga jabbed Feng Sang's shoulder with a finger. Disrespect Xiao Wu like that again and I'll kill you. Wow, I'm so scared. Infuriated, Feng Sang rolled her eyes. So it's you, Duan Chowga. Feng Sang snorted. Weren't you the one who followed Feng Wu around all the time? You're an idiot. I see why you were with her when she was a genius, but she's useless now. You have to be an imbecile to stick with her. Smack. Feng Wu smacked Feng Sang hard. Shut your mouth. Feng Sang. Pressing a palm to her swollen left cheek, Feng Sang said in disbelief, You hit me. Feng Wu, how dare you hit me? How dare a good-for-nothing hit her? However, when Feng Sang met Feng Wu's gaze and saw eyes as black as an abyss, somehow, a chill ran down Feng Sang's spine. Because this was taking place on a main road, it soon caught the attention of a lot of passers-by. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.